Chapter 1176. Descent on Lore City, 1. Chongyang Qingyun suddenly came to a stop after the huge boom rang across the as he was charging at Tai Ta. He stared at the sky as some surprise and shock flooded his face. The sound had alarmed everyone in the clan, whether they were part of the inner clan or outer clan. At that moment, all of them raised their heads to the sky. Many people had no idea what was happening. The space in the sky shook and violently distorted. Strands of bright and gentle white light seemed to be worming through the cracked space. The 18 halls holding the space together had all completely appeared at that moment. They had become 18 real divine halls, maintaining the region of space. Every divine hall surged with tremendous energy along with profound truths of space. This is an invasion. 18 elders, quickly use the 18 halls to stabilize the space. We can't let the outsiders in. Chongyang Qingyun gave a stern order. He was extremely grim. Before the internal strife of the clan had even reached a conclusion, people had already begun invading. If they did not stop the invasion in time, the Chongyang clan would definitely end up paying a heavy price. 18 old men immediately took to the sky from the ground. They each flew toward a divine hall, wanting to enter the halls to harness their full power. However, just as they charged into the sky, the space of the Chongyang clan jerked violently again. The space in the sky had been split open, and a large swathe of moonlight emerged, illuminating the entire clan and turning it into a silver-white world. "Enter the divine halls!" someone exclaimed from the air. The 18 old men immediately stopped hesitating, ignoring what was happening in the sky. They entered the 18 divine halls as fast as they could. Immediately, each divine hall began to shine with extremely blinding light. The 18 divine halls created a huge formation, giving off even more powerful energy and mysteries of space to stabilize the realm. The crack in the sky also rapidly closed up. At this moment, a huge silver-white divine hall descended from the sky. It just happened to lodge itself within the healing cracks, preventing them from closing it up completely. Isn't this fairy Hao Yu's bright moon divine hall? Chongyang Qingyun called out as shock flooded his face. It really is the bright moon divine hall. Chongyang Zhu Shao also stared at the divine hall in the sky in shock. Chongyang Yuan Wuji temporarily forgot about Jian Chen and Tai Ta. He stared at the divine hall in the sky blankly so much that he could not return to his senses even after quite a while. At this moment, the door of the divine hall suddenly swung open. Yu Yu emerged at the main entrance with the moon god's scepter in her hand as hazy moonlight fell from the arch of the entrance. It formed a light screen to protect Yu Yu. Yu Yu's beautiful face was currently filled with worry and undisguised anxiety. She stood there and constantly looked around, finding Jian Chen very quickly. However, her heart fell into agony when she saw Jian Chen all bloodied and covered in wounds. Tears began to uncontrollably roll from her cheeks. "Jian Chen!" Yu Yu called out in grief. She wanted to fly down and help Jian Chen regardless of the dangers, but she was stopped by the light screen. She could not take a single step out of the divine hall. Jian Chen also discovered Yu Yu. He immediately became stunned. Never did he think that Yu Yu would actually come looking for him here. "Jian Chen, get on here quick!" Yu Yu called out anxiously between her tears. Jian Chen glanced at Yu Yu with extremely mixed emotions and wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips. With a thought, the saint artifact immediately flew back to his hand, and he flew toward a distant mountain. Very soon, Jian Chen flew over while carrying the heavily injured Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao. He called Tai Ta over, and they flew toward the divine hall in the air together. "Leaving won't be that easy," Chongyang Qingyun roared out. He could not let Jian Chen go with the saint's fruit, nor could he let Tai Ta go as the war god. A terrifying pressure suddenly appeared. Chongyang Qingyun used a saint-tier battle skill with his strength at great perfection in attempt to prevent Jian Chen and Tai Ta from leaving. Yu Yu looked at Chongyang Qingyun with all the hatred she felt. She extended the scepter and a fist-sized strand of moonlight shot from the gem. It traveled toward Chongyang Qingyun at an unbelievable speed. Chongyang Qingyun had just finished preparing the saint-tier battle skill, but before he could even use it, he sensed the strand of moonlight shooting over from above, so he immediately used the saint-tier battle skill on the moonlight even though he had prepared it for Jian Chen and Tai Ta. With an enormous boom, Chongyang Qingyun's saint-tier battle skill was destroyed by the inconspicuous strand of light. The moonlight continued on without weakening, headed toward Chongyang Qingyun. Boom! The strand of moonlight struck Chongyang Qingyun in the chest, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. He also lost control over his ability to hover, falling out of the sky. Saint Emperor. This is a Saint Emperor's power. Chongyang Qingyun hovered back into the air again very soon. He stared at Yu Yu standing at the main entrance of the Divine Hall, and his face was filled with shock and disbelief. Jian Chen had already approached the Divine Hall with Tai Ta while carrying the heavily injured Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao. He passed through the light screen without any obstructions and arrived inside the Divine Hall. Yu Yu was relieved seeing how Jian Chen had finally made it to the Divine Hall. She glared at all the people below before vanishing inside. Bang! The doors of the Divine Hall slammed shut and the Divine Hall gently trembled. Pure strands of moonlight force radiated from it, expanding the crack in the sky again in an attempt to leave. But at this moment, a supreme sword chi appeared from the forbidden grounds of the clan, causing the whole place to shake. Chapter 1177. Descent on Lore City, 2. The formations in the forbidden grounds had already cracked open. A huge sword shone with blinding light as it slowly rose into the air, radiating with earth-shaking sword chi. Around a dozen Saint Ruler old men sat beneath the sword. All of them were pale-faced and filled with exhaustion. They had expended a lot to use a secret technique to awaken the Emperor armament. Fantastic! The Emperor armament has finally awakened. Now let's see how the Bright Moon Divine Hall escapes. Chongyang Qingyun was delighted. It's the clan's Emperor armament. Wonderful, the Emperor armament has finally appeared. The might of our Emperor armament is unbelievable. Is there still anyone who can stand up to it once it appears? The invading Divine Hall won't even be able to take a single attack from the Emperor armament. The clan immediately began to buzz with the appearance of the Emperor armament. Many core members of the clan knew about the legend of the Emperor armament, so they obviously held blind belief in it. They believed it to be the most powerful weapon in the world. Suddenly, the huge sword gently trembled. A sword chi much more powerful than before immediately emerged. With its jerk, many tiny cracks immediately appeared in the tough space of the Chongyang clan, and the Emperor armament turned into a resplendent streak of light. It stabbed at the Bright Moon Divine Hall with unbelievable speed, arriving nearby in a single instant. It seemed like it had teleported. Boom! With a deafening rumble, the Emperor armament struck the Divine Hall like a bolt of lightning. The sound from the collision temporarily deafened many people, causing their ears to ring. Terrifying energy ripples transformed into a violent storm as they ripped across the sky. The floating piece of land in the center of the Chongyang clan violently shook. Many buildings collapsed and it was reduced to a mess. However, no one paid attention to the ruined houses. They all stared unblinkingly at the Emperor armament and Divine Hall in the sky. The Bright Moon Divine Hall remained hovering in the sky in a stable fashion. There were no signs of damage on the pure white and majestic structure. Not even a single scratch in fact. The Bright Moon Divine Hall was actually unscathed after taking a strike from the Emperor armament. Impossible! Chongyang Qingyun stared at the sky wide-eyed. Disbelief had completely overwhelmed him, and he refused to accept what had just unfolded in front of him. Chongyang Zhu Xiao also became stunned. He murmured, "The Emperor armament has been awakened by a secret technique and is unable to use its full might without anyone's control, but it can easily break through any Divine Hall. How can the Bright Moon Divine Hall take a strike from it and emerge completely fine? Even if it's made from the special materials of the moon, it's impossible for it to be this tough." Chongyang Qingyun and Chongyang Zhu Xiao were not the only people shocked. Every single person who knew the power of the Emperor armament became tongue-tied in disbelief at what had just happened. Thrum! The Emperor armament in the air resonated loudly before striking the Divine Hall again with great force. With another boom, the outcome was the same as before. The Bright Moon Divine Hall had forcefully taken on the Emperor armament's attack without sustaining any damage. The Emperor armament of a protector clan was actually unable to leave a single mark on the pure white structure. The Divine Hall became enshrouded by a layer of bright moonlight. Pure and powerful moonlight force slowly forced the crack open, which the Divine Hall then slowly rose through. It paid no attention to the Emperor armament. The war god of the 100 races is within the Bright Moon Divine Hall. We can't let it leave. Great elders, let's control the Emperor armament together. Otherwise, if the war god leaves here, there will be unthinkable consequences. Chongyang Qingyun called out. Right now, the Emperor armament was only attacking automatically after it had been awakened. It was unable to use all its power without being controlled, so it was very weak. Other than Chongyang Zhu Xiao, the other great elders all charged at the emperor armament in unison. Even Chongyang Qing Yunfeng, who had been heavily injured by Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding god's fist, participated as well. The bright moon divine hall broke out of the independent space and arrived outside. The crack in the space had finally closed up as well, concealing the Chongyang clan once again. But the next moment, the world gate of the Chongyang clan opened widely. 5 great elders poured their strength together to control the emperor armament as they aggressively flew out, making their way over to the bright moon divine hall. The emperor armament became even more powerful under their control. The door of the divine hall swung open again, and Yu Yu emerged with the moon god's scepter. Her face was filled with anger, and she used the scepter to receive the incoming emperor armament. A strand of pure white moonlight force immediately surged out. There's not much power left. My dear disciple, don't use it all so casually. The power within the moon god's scepter can only be used to save lives. Fairy Hao Yu's voice suddenly rang in Yu Yu's head. Without her control, the power that gathered within the scepter dispersed by itself. Chapter 1178. Descent on Lore City, 3. Fairy Hao Yu stopped Yu Yu and an invisible force surged from the divine hall. It wrapped around Yu Yu and pulled her back into the divine hall. The door then slammed shut again. The control over the divine hall remained in Fairy Hao Yu's possession. Yu Yu had only obtained partial control after obtaining special permission from Fairy Hao Yu, so she did not possess absolute power over the structure. Up ahead, the emperor armament had already threateningly stabbed toward the divine hall with a soaring presence under the control of the 5 great elders. The space outside was not as tough as inside the clan, so it was ripped apart like paper wherever the emperor armament passed, causing a huge black gash to appear in the air. At this moment, a golden sword chi that was over 10 meters long shot over from behind. The sword chi glowed with a glimmering golden light, dyeing the night sky a golden hue. A huge phoenix completely condensed of white flames hovered beside the golden sword chi. Coupled with a clear phoenix's cry, it flew over with lightning-like speed beside the sword chi, heading toward the emperor armament. Boom! The sword chi and phoenix violently collided with the emperor armament, and an extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted. It caused the space in a radius of 100 meters to collapse, reducing it to utter darkness. Violent energy splayed down, collapsing countless mountains and causing the ground to shake. Huge cracks extended to 1,000 kilometers away. Fortunately, the ancient mountain range where the Chongyang clan resided was desolate. Only a few magical beasts lived there and rarely did anyone set foot there. Otherwise, just the ripples of the clash would have wiped out a large-scale city and turned it into a living hell. Powerful ripples of energy rammed into the emperor armament and the 5 great elders in the form of storms after being blocked. It stopped them from advancing and forcefully pushed them back. The golden sword chi and the phoenix dispersed, and what replaced them was a glimmering sword and an exquisite, fire-red hairpin. The presence of origin energy. These are origin energy weapons. The 5 great elders changed in expression slightly, and they also began to frown. It's the 3 powerful magical beasts. I never thought that they'd actually hurry over at this crucial moment, Chongyang Qing Yunfeng growled. His complexion was extremely horrible. The 5 of them feared the magical beast trio very much since they were existences that even saint emperors could do nothing to. 2 streaks, 1 golden and 1 red, broke through the pitch-black sky. They hurried over from afar extremely quickly. One moment, they were still near the horizon, far away, yet they had already arrived above the bright moon divine hall in the next. They faced against the 5 great elders. They were Rue Jin and Hong Lian. The Protector clan's miniature worlds sure are wondrous. They can actually isolate all presences from being sensed. Even my secret techniques of the Dragon clan couldn't find Jian Chen. If it weren't for the fact that the battle that had erupted earlier alerted us, we probably wouldn't have been able to find this place. Rue Jin stared coldly and emotionlessly at the 5 people as he held the sacred dragon's sword. The scorching godfire hairpin had returned to Hong Lian as well. She played around with the origin energy weapon in her hand and glanced out at the bright moon divine hall behind. She said, "The temptation of the saint's fruit really is enough to drive people mad. Looks like they've chosen to become Jian Chen's enemies for the fruit. This is an internal matter of our Protector clan. I hope you don't interfere. You may be in possession of origin energy weapons, but we have the emperor armament left behind by our founding ancestor. The strength of it is not something you can imagine. Chongyang Qingyun gave a heavy warning. He did not want to provoke Rue Jin and the others so easily. Rue Jin began to sneer. Then I wonder if the emperor armament of your protector clan is more powerful or if the treasure of the dragon clan, the sacred dragon sword, is. And what about the legacy treasure of my phoenix clan, the scorching god fire hairpin? Hong Lian added as well. The two of them showed no fear at all against the emperor armament. Do the two of you really want to stick your noses into the business here? Chongyang Qingyun was pale white. The emperor armament was very powerful, but controlling it was just far too difficult. They would be fine if it was only temporary, but once they controlled it for a long period of time, they would receive a backlash from the emperor armament's power. The price they would end up paying would be far too great. At this moment, another black figure flew over from the distance. He arrived beside Rue Jin and Hong Lian and stood with them. It was the black-robed He Yu. He Yu's condition seemed horrible. Blood constantly flowed from the corner of his lips, dribbling all over his chest. His skin had become black as well. He was even more heavily poisoned than before. However, He Yu remained just as mighty as before. He stood there threateningly with his machete in hand and his gaze sharp. Elevated battle intent radiated from him, as if he was about to charge into battle. Suddenly, the 5 great elders gently jerked. They had controlled the emperor armament for quite a while now, so they were beginning to slowly suffer a backlash. Chongyang Qingyun coldly stared at the bright moon divine hall for a while. He knew that if the great elders continued like this, the only people who would suffer in the end would be them. He finally made his decision and reluctantly ordered to retreat. Let's return. The world gate was opened once again and the 5 great elders returned to the clan with the emperor armament. At the same time, the bright moon divine hall turned into a silver-white streak of light and shot off. It vanished in the blink of an eye and Rue Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu followed it closely. Night loomed over Lore City in the Jessen Kingdom. A full moon hung in the sky, shining with hazy moonlight. Groups of armored guards could vaguely be made out in the night as they patrolled the dead silent city, quietly upholding peace. An extremely few number of lights let off their dazzling glow in the Chongyang clan. Groups of burly men patrolled every inch of the clan in high spirits. Every single person had extremely sharp eyes, which constantly swept over the gloomy corners. They were not tired in any way at all. These people were the guards of the Chongyang clan. The current Chongyang clan was incomparable to its past, so even the guards and the people from before had become much stronger. There were plenty of Earth Saint Masters, and even quite a few Heaven Saint Masters. During the still night, most people were in deep dreams, but, at this moment, the land became abnormally bright and the darkness of the city instantly vanished. The whole city had become illuminated at that moment. The sudden occurrence alerted all the patrolling guards of the city and the clan. Many people instinctively raised their heads to look at the sky, only to see a silver-white divine hall slowly descending with bright moonlight. It stopped 100 meters above the Chongyang clan in the end. What's that? Quick, contact the city lord. The night guards had seen the divine hall from very far away. All of them became stunned before quickly making their way to the city lord's residence. At the same time, the heavy and hurried sound of war drums rang through the city. They spread far and wide, rousing all the people from their sleep or cultivation. Chapter 1179. Xiao Bao the Cripple, 1. The quiet Chongyang clan was completely illuminated in an instant. Several figures flickered everywhere and all the guards surged out from the rooms as quickly as they could. Many of them had been roused from their sleep, but none of them showed any drowsiness. All of them were in high spirits and possessed sharp gazes. It had only been 10 seconds since the war drums began beating. Several hundred figures suddenly emerged from the Chongyang clan. All the guards gathered in the front courtyard, radiating with powerful presences. Before they could even inquire about what was happening, all of them sensed the extremely bright moonlight in the sky. They immediately looked up and became temporarily stunned when they saw what was in the sky. A huge divine hall surrounded by a dense layer of moonlight hovered firmly 100 meters above the clan. It blotted out the entire sky. What's happening? A heavy and authoritative voice rang out. Chongyang Ba had emerged from his room in luxurious robes. He seemed even more dignified than before. Chongyang Ba looked up at the sky because of the bright moonlight as soon as he took a step past the door sill. He too became stunned. Afterward, all the members of the upper echelon were alarmed as well. They all emerged from their rooms and stared at the divine hall in the sky in doubt and surprise. That seems like the bright moon divine hall mentioned by Yuera. Chongyangba stared fixedly at the divine hall and softly murmured. He had learned that Yu had obtained the bright moon divine hall long ago, but he had never seen the actual structure. At this moment, the divine hall's entrance flung open. Jian Chen flew out as he carried the heavily injured Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao while Tai Ta and Yu followed close by his side. Xiang'er, it's young master. Jian Chen was immediately recognized as soon as he touched down. At first, there were a few soft cries filled with serendipity, but all the guards dropped to one knee in unison soon afterward. They all called out loudly, in excitement and admiration. We greet the young master. In the blink of an eye, only Jian Chen's seniors remained standing among the large swathe of people. Chongyangba quickly walked over. He became furious and surprised after seeing how Jian Chen was covered in blood. Without even greeting him, he directly asked, Xiang'er, what's happened? Why are you so heavily injured? Who injured you? Chongyangba's voice was filled with concern as well as some worry. For Jian Chen to be reduced to such a horrible condition with his current strength, Chongyangba really had no idea just how powerful the opponents his talented son had come across. Xiang'er, with a sob, Bai Yuntian hurried over. She glanced at the various injuries on Jian Chen, and she could not help but jerk. She was heartbroken to see her precious son in such a chilling condition. Great-grandfather Yunxiao, this. Xiang'er, how did great-grandfather Yunxiao become injured like this? He's a great elder of a protector clan. Is there anyone bold enough to injure a great elder of a protector clan on the continent? Xiang'er, just what has happened? Chongyangba paled in fright and hurriedly asked. Mother, father, let's talk about this tomorrow. I'll take great-grandfather Yunxiao with me to heal. Jian Chen was rather gloomy. With that, he carried the unconscious Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao to his residence. Yu and Tai Ta followed beside Jian Chen, leaving behind Chongyangba and a great group of people standing there sternly. There were no sounds other than Jian Chen and the others' footsteps, which made the atmosphere extremely grim. Rue Jin, He Yu, and Hong Lian arrived at the clan not much later. They said nothing and all returned to their own residences. They possessed extremely great statuses in the clan, so they all possessed their own places to stay. The bright moon divine hall was not put away by Yu. It remained hovering 100 meters in the air to prevent any accidents from happening. Right now, Yu had become especially alert as well. She was afraid that the experts of the Protector clan would attack, so she left the bright moon divine hall outside to cover the clan. The night was dreary to the Chongyang clan of Lore City. They all felt heavy-hearted as to what had happened to Jian Chen. For Lore City, the night was a sleepless one. The descent of the divine hall shook up the entire city, causing it to become bustling from its initial silence. Even the city lord had personally rushed to the clan to visit them, but he was turned away at the doorstep. The next morning, in a huge mountain range several 100,000 kilometers away, an expanse of simple wooden huts stood silently in a beautiful little valley. It was filled with the bleak presence of time. This was a small village secluded from the world. The scenery there was beautiful and the energy of the world was extremely abundant where it formed a thin mist in the sky. Various herbs and invaluable heavenly resources grew in the surroundings. Heavenly resources of thousands of years of maturity could be seen everywhere, with countless heavenly resources of several hundred years of maturity. The village was rather large. Several hundred wooden huts and buildings of various sizes stood around in a certain arrangement, but no one could be seen. The entire village was dead silent. A great hall completely constructed from 10,000-year ironwood stood in the center of the village. Although it was ancient and old-fashioned, it was filled with a grandeur that invoked respect. A few people sat within the hall. The most eye-catching person was a woman in azure clothes. She carried a zither in her bosom and her face was concealed by a veil. Although her appearance was not visible, her bearing gave away her supreme beauty. 3 old men with long eyebrows sat politely in front of her. Their appearances were rather striking, and the central old man held a perfectly sealed embroidered box. Esteemed heavenly enchantress, the heaven's heart lotus you gave us has already been refined into a pill of mild properties. It's refined from a 10,000-year heavenly resource, but even ordinary people will remain fine if they ingest it. There's no need to worry about its potency that might lead to people imploding. The old man passed the box to the heavenly enchantress. He spoke rather politely but also with some dread. The heavenly enchantress accepted the box and opened it. A perfectly round, thumb-sized pill lay in there silently as a layer of mist encircled it lazily. It gave off a heavy fragrance. The heavenly enchantress' plain eyes finally showed some change when she saw the pill. She said, "The ancient medicine village sure is worthy of its name, to use so little time to refine a 10,000-year heavenly resource." The ancient medicine village was an ancient organization that had existed for over 100,000 years. They were one of the more powerful ancient clans and specialized in refining medicine and using medicine to cultivate. They used an extremely different method of cultivation, so they had already reached great mastery over the refinement of pills. They remained secluded most of the time, so they were not known at all. There were not many people who knew of its existence even in most ancient clans. "Esteemed heavenly enchantress, we have already fulfilled your request. I just wonder about the Grand Elder's injury," an old man carefully inquired. He was extremely fearful of the woman seated in front of him. The heavenly enchantress put the box away and said in ordinary voice, "It's fortunate that your Grand Elder's chi deviation is not too severe. I've already used the soul-nurturing melody to heal the wounds of his soul, so he will wake up in 3 days' time. He just needs to take good care of himself, and he will make a full recovery." The 3 old men rejoiced with that. They all thanked her. "Thank you for helping out. We will never forget your kindness." The heavenly enchantress left the village with the pill. When she left, the 3 elders who possessed extremely great status within the village immediately exhaled in relief. They felt lingering fear when they thought back to the moment she had first arrived in the village. Just who is this heavenly enchantress? She's so terrifying. Just a flick of the finger and everyone in the village fell asleep. Even the saint rulers weren't able to resist. It's fortunate that she was not hostile, or destroying our village with her strength would have been a piece of cake. Her skills with the zither are just far too terrifying. She specializes in affecting the soul. Even with our strength as saint kings, we struggle to resist 3 notes she played. Just what level of cultivation has she reached to be this strong? When the Grand Elder suffered chi deviation in his cultivation, he had injured his soul and has remained unconscious for several decades. The injuries of the soul are the hardest to heal, yet the heavenly enchantress has healed his injuries with just a single tune. Is that really all that she's done? Chapter 1180. Xiao Bao the Cripple, 2. After leaving the ancient medicine village, the heavenly enchantress did not return to 3 Saint Island immediately. Instead, she ripped open a space gate and went to the City of God in the Holy Empire. As one of the 7 capitals of the continent, its prosperity was beyond suspicion. People surged through the streets and alleyways as shouts rang out, adding to the commotion. It was bustling and countless experts gathered there. A giant, majestic castle stood in the center of the city like a sleeping primordial beast. A large number of white-robed radiant saint masters who bore various colored badges on their chests walked in and out. This was the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union, the most sacred place to Radiant Saint Masters on the continent since almost all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters gathered there at this moment. The heavenly enchantress appeared silently with her zither and veil. She hovered 100 meters in the air as she coldly stared at the castle. Shortly afterward, a powerful presence radiated from her, surging out like a blanket and enveloping the entire headquarters. All the experts within the Union became alarmed. Figures flickered outside the castle as several saint rulers made their way outside as quickly as possible. They glared at the heavenly enchantress. Afterward, around a dozen balls of white light flew out of the castle. They were white-robed radiant saint masters with blue and purple badges. The president and grand elders stood at the very front. Behind them followed other Class 6 and 7 radiant saint masters. The president stared at the heavenly enchantress in interest. When he recognized her, surprise immediately flashed through his eyes, and he said, "Muir, it's actually you." The heavenly enchantress looked at the president and her cold eyes immediately began to warm up slightly, and some respect appeared in her gaze as well. "I greet the president." The heavenly enchantress nodded her head slightly, greeting the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union on her own accord. The president gently smiled, as if he was an elder looking at a junior. He said, "Muir, it's been so many years and this is the first time you've come to my union. Please come in." The saint rulers who had hurried over at the very beginning immediately became relieved when they heard what the president had said. The gazes they directed toward the heavenly enchantress were no longer filled with hostility. The hostility had been replaced by shock and admiration. Although her face was covered by a veil, it was not enough to conceal the heavenly enchantress' supreme beauty. Just by standing there, everyone could feel an otherworldly bearing from her, as if she was a goddess. Esteemed President, I've come visiting this time because I have a matter that I wish the Great Union to assist me with, said the heavenly enchantress. Shangguan Mu'er, your father's a very good friend of the Union. The Union will fulfill any request you have as long as it's within our capabilities. May I ask what you need us for? The Grand Elder responded. The heavenly enchantress' eyes immediately grew cold when she heard the word father. She said, I've come looking for help out of my own accord. It has nothing to do with Hao Wu. Your relationship with him has nothing to do with me. Sigh, the president gently exhaled. He said, Mu'er, are you still unwilling to forgive your father even after so many years? Don't mention that person in front of me, the heavenly enchantress coldly replied. She radiated an unhidable anger. The president and Grand Elder looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. They sighed inside. From the heavenly enchantress' reaction, they knew that her hatred for her own father was still extremely deep. A while later, the heavenly enchantress calmed down. She said, President, I want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with me to 3 Saint Island. The president pondered in silence before deeply looking at the heavenly enchantress. He said, Mu'er, a huge matter has happened on the Tianyuan continent 2 days ago. Many Saint Kings were heavily injured, so almost all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters of the Union have been whisked away by the various ancient clans and protector clans. Right now, there's only 3 Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters watching over the Union, yet you want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to the distant 3 Saint Island in this time of need. It really does make it rather hard for us, but of course, your father's a good friend of the Union. If your father comes personally, the Union will agree to the request without any hesitation. Esteemed President, I am still extremely grateful to you for saving my life all those years ago, but I need to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with me back to the island no matter what. I hope you can agree to this, the heavenly enchantress sincerely replied. All of this was for Xiao Bao. The energy hidden within 10,000-year heavenly resources was tremendous. The Heaven's Heart Lotus might have been refined into a pill with mild medicinal effects, but Xiao Bao was still young. She was unwilling to take the risk, so she needed to be prepared to prevent any accidents from happening to him. A hunchbacked figure flew out of the castle. He was a wrinkly old man who wore simple clothes. He seemed like any old person, but he was the one and only Saint King of the Union. Shangguan Mu'er, you should go ask your father to come, or it's impossible for you to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with you to 3 Saint Island, the old man said rather powerlessly. The heavenly enchantress stared unblinkingly at the old man. Her voice became rather icy as well. Elder Jia, if I really wanted to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master with me, no one can stop me, even with the entire Union in perspective. I just don't want to cause that type of trouble since the president once saved my life. Elder Jia began to laugh. It's rumored that the heavenly enchantress can captivate the soul and harm it with a single tune, able to kill people without even letting them notice. However, all your opponents were saint rulers. The souls of saint kings are incomparable to the souls of saint rulers, so your melodies cannot harm me even if they prove to be fatal to saint rulers. Chapter 1181. Xiao Bao the Cripple, 3. The heavenly enchantress could not help but smile scornfully beneath her veil after hearing how confident Elder Jia was. She said, Elder Jia, why don't you try it then and see whether my melodies truly do pose a threat to Saint Kings or not? The heavenly enchantress was only grateful to the president within the entire Union. Even with Elder Jia's great status, he did not receive any respect from her. Elder Jia flew up. His entire presence suddenly underwent an overwhelming change. In that moment, he had suddenly straightened up and great confidence filled his body. The robes he wore fluttered despite the lack of wind, making him seem awe-inspiring. Elder Jia stood in the sky with his arms crossed. His eyes shone brightly with interest. He seemed like a completely different person from the simple old man from before. Shangguan Mu'er, do it. Show me just how powerful your melodies are, Elder Jia easily said. He could not see through the heavenly enchantress' strength, but he had heard the legends about her. He still believed that she was a saint ruler. At the same time, the presence from the heavenly enchantress was only at the level of saint rulers despite its strength, so it did not catch the fourth heavenly layer Saint King's eyes at all. Elder Jia, forgive me. The heavenly enchantress replied rather coldly. She gently placed her white, gentle hand on the zither strings and used a single, elegant finger to gently strum a string. Ding! The crisp sound did not make it very far. It only reached 100 meters before vanishing. The president, grand elder and the saint rulers behind them all focused their attention. They prepared themselves against the enchanting melodies that the heavenly enchantress could play. Abilities that could influence the soul were the hardest to guard against, and the only way to resist was to possess a powerful soul. As a result, they could not take the attack lightly even though the heavenly enchantress did not target them. However, there were no other disturbances after the heavenly enchantress' first note. Unlike everyone had imagined, there was no enchanting melody that could affect the souls of saint rulers, just a clear note that had not caused them any discomfort at all. However, no one realized that Elder Jia's eyes had grown blank from their original brilliance. They had become dull and lifeless. Any light they were supposed to reflect had completely vanished. Afterward, his body gently swayed, and to everyone's surprise, he fell out of the sky. His dull eyes also slowly closed. Elder Jia! Elder Jia! With a number of cries, a few saint rulers immediately rushed to Elder Jia's side. They caught his body just before it was about to strike the hard ground. Elder Jia, are you all right? The saint rulers urgently asked the old man. The president and grand elder became stern as well. They immediately descended to Elder Jia's side, and after examining him, they found that everything was normal. He did not suffer any injuries at all. Mu'er, what did you do to Elder Jia? The president looked at the heavenly enchantress and asked with a rather trembling voice. He struggled to believe what had just happened. President, the elder is fine. He will wake up very soon, answered the heavenly enchantress. The president was finally relieved with that. Still badly shaken, he looked at the heavenly enchantress in the sky and his heart surged. Elder Jia was a mighty saint king, and one that had reached the fourth heavenly layer after all, yet he was so puny before the heavenly enchantress, being knocked out by a single note. This was rather hard to believe, and he still struggled to accept it all as true even though it had unfolded right before his eyes. At this moment, everyone's opinion of the heavenly enchantress underwent a huge change, whether it was the president, the grand elder, or the saint rulers. All of them had witnessed how terrifying the heavenly enchantress was when a fourth heavenly layer saint king appeared so puny in front of her. Elder Jia slowly opened his eyes. They were filled with confusion, which cleared up instantly. He then sensed that he was laying on the ground, so he immediately became surprised. He climbed to his feet and raised his head to look at the heavenly enchantress in disbelief. His heart began to beat heavily in an uncontrollable fashion after so many years of peace. Elder Jia, are you fine? The president asked in concern. He was the only saint king of the Union, so his existence was extremely important. Elder Jia completely ignored what the president said, as if he hadn't even heard it at all. He only stared at the heavenly enchantress blankly. He could not help but think over what had just happened inside. He did not feel any discomfort after hearing the clear note, but he felt like he had been hit by a very powerful charm, making his soul become sleepy and making him fall unconscious very quickly. Even with his powerful soul, he could not resist. Elder Jia, you've lost. The heavenly enchantress coldly stared at the old man with her captivating eyes and nonchalantly commented, as if just using a single note to knock out a fourth heavenly layer saint king was no special matter for her. Sigh, Elder Jia exhaled. His upright figure became hunchbacked again, returning to his previous posture. He said rather dejectedly, I have lost. The power of your melodies really are terrifying. I admit that I am weaker. The president, grand elder, and the other radiant saint masters and heaven saint masters all fell silent. A fourth heavenly layer saint king had just suffered defeat like this and in such a miserable, horrible fashion. He did not even have the opportunity to fight back. Chapter 1182. Xiao Bao the Cripple, 4. The pill created from a 10,000-year heavenly resource finally dissolved in Xiao Bao's mouth, which he then consumed. Immediately, a gentle and vast energy erupted within him, flowing into his limbs and bones and filling up his body. The heavenly enchantress, the sixth elder, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, and Qin Qin all stared at Xiao Bao, very focused. As the vast energy filled up Xiao Bao, Xiao Qian immediately said, Xiao Bao, quick, use the method that I taught you. Use your mind to circulate the energy within you. Xiao Bao obediently agreed and immediately sat down. He placed his arms on his knees and closed his eyes with a serious expression. He quietly circulated the energy using the method that Xiao Qian had taught him before. Very soon, thin beads of sweat appeared on Xiao Bao's forehead. His complexion also became rather unnatural. He could clearly feel the tremendous amount of energy surging within him, but he could not control it as he wished since he had not begun cultivating. In fact, he was still rather unsure of how to control the energy. He was nowhere near a level of mastery. The sixth elder paid close attention to Xiao Bao. He understood why he had come to the Three-Saint Island. The heavenly enchantress had personally visited the Union to bring a skillful Class 7 Radiant Saint Master back with her, in order to prevent any accidents from occurring when the boy ingested the pill. More importantly, the medicinal effects of the heavenly resource had already become extremely gentle after being refined into a pill. Even ordinary people would be able to ingest it without accidents, but the heavenly enchantress was still worried, so she had invited a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. This was more than enough to see just how important the boy was to the heavenly enchantress. Energy appeared continuously within Xiao Bao's body. It was not controlled by him, and instead, it expanded to every corner of his body by itself before slowly fusing with his flesh and organs, or more accurately, it was absorbed by Xiao Bao's flesh and organs. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed and Xiao Bao had completely absorbed the pill. However, there was still no energy within him. The heavenly enchantress, Xiao Qing, and Xiao Yu, who had been with him through the entire process, immediately extended an arm to sense the situation inside of him. A while later, their expressions abruptly changed. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How is that possible? There's still no saint force in Xiao Bao. There's not even a drop, Xiao Qian uncontrollably exclaimed. A 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is enough for a person who cannot cultivate to undergo a complete rebirth and increase their strength by quite a lot at the same time. But Xiao Bao? No, it's impossible. Xiao Yu shook her head as she appeared to be rather pained. She seemed to refuse to accept what had just happened. There was no room for doubt as to the amount of energy hidden within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, yet it was just like nothing to Xiao Bao. Qin Qin was stunned by the outcome as well. She murmured, even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource isn't enough to change Xiao Bao's constitution. Does that mean that Xiao Bao really is that crippled? Is he even more crippled than a cripple? The heavenly enchantress stared blankly at Xiao Bao's chubby face with her enchanting eyes. She remained silent for quite some time and had become rather dejected. She dared not believe the outcome. She refused to accept it. It had affected her much more heavily than anyone present. Impossible. This is impossible. Only after quite a while later did the heavenly enchantress hoarsely speak. She could not help but think back to what had happened before. Until now, only the heavenly enchantress knew the true identity and origins of Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao was not a child she had found elsewhere, but her own child. He was her own flesh and blood. She had been pregnant with him for 10 whole years, and during the pregnancy, her strength skyrocketed at an unbelievable rate. She knew it was all because of the child in her womb. Other than the dragon's saliva that Jian Chen had left behind, the main reason her strength could reach such an unbelievable level in such a short amount of time was Xiao Bao. During her pregnancy, the heavenly enchantress knew that the child in her womb was extraordinary. When she had given birth to him, she had even concluded without a second thought that Xiao Bao was an unprecedented genius, someone that could even surpass Saint Emperor in the future. However, never did she think that the outcome could actually be like this. Xiao Bao was no unprecedented prodigy, just a cripple. Even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource was not enough to change his constitution. He was even more crippled than cripples actually. Sigh, Xiao Bao is so pitiful, Xiao Yu helplessly sighed. She became rather dejected. Xiao Qian said after thinking a little, we don't need to be too sad. Xiao Bao may be an ordinary person, but ordinary people can obtain happiness and joy as well. They can live every day without worries, unlike the cultivators of the continent who would erupt into a battle of life and death with just the slightest provocation. Their outcome in the end is miserable. The heavenly enchantress closed her eyes rather painfully. She did not wish to see Xiao Bao be a normal person as they only had a lifespan of 200 years. 200 years were just far too short. She could not imagine the scene of her son slowly aging before her eyes until he passed away. The sixth elder stared at Xiao Bao weirdly. He furrowed his brows tightly and murmured, odd, so odd. It really is very odd. Even a heaven saint master needs quite a lot of time to digest and absorb the energy within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource, yet this child right before us used just 2 days. This is illogical. That's just how Xiao Bao's constitution is. We've fed him many thousand-year-old and several thousand-year-old heavenly resources in the past, but all the energy would disappear in less than a day. Other than having a body more powerful than normal people, there's been no other changes. Xiao Yu sat on the floor gloomily as she placed her chin on her knees. She was very sad that Xiao Bao was a cripple. Qin arrived before the 6th elder and hopefully asked, "Esteemed Radiant Saint Master, you are knowledgeable, so may I ask if you have any ideas to deal with Xiao Bao's problem?" "I really don't have any." The 6th elder shook his head with a wry smile. This was the first time he had seen a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource fail to change someone's constitution. On the Tianyuan continent, 10,000-year-old heavenly resources were more than enough to allow a cripple undergo a rebirth. However, these heavenly resources were just too rare and too valuable. They were not items ordinary people could afford. Suddenly, the 6th elder seemed to think of something and his eyes suddenly began to shine. He said, "Perhaps only such a sacred item will have an effect." "What is it?" The heavenly enchantress suddenly snapped open her eyes and stared at the 6th elder in interest. "The saint's fruit." The 6th elder stressed every single word. He was extremely stern. The Radiant Saint Master Union possessed a very lengthy history, so they had clear records regarding the fruit. They just did not have the power to compete for it, which was why they never participated in obtaining it. Chapter 1183. Threat the Saint's Fruit? What's that? The heavenly enchantress uncertainly asked. The Saint's Fruit is a sacred item of the continent. It is a treasure that belongs to us humans. The 6th elder possessed an extremely detailed understanding of the fruit. What he knew was no less than the great elders of the protector clans. He explained everything he knew regarding the fruit to the heavenly enchantress. "Whoa, it's that powerful. A heavenly resource that can actually let a saint king become a saint emperor." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately cried out when they heard about the heaven-defying nature of the fruit. They were amazed, and Qin was not an exception either. She too was stunned. The heavenly enchantress thought as she shifted her gaze. "No wonder I felt a presence that seemed like a saint emperor appear in a direction far away. It covered the entire continent. I had originally thought that a new saint emperor had appeared on the Tianyuan continent, but I never thought that it was actually just the commotion of the saint's fruit. It's a pity that I was in the ancient medicine village back then, and it just happened to be a vital moment in the refinement of the heaven's heart lotus. I could only watch over the refinement in order to guarantee that no accidents occurred, or I definitely would have went to have a look." The heavenly enchantress looked at the 6th elder and continued, "6th elder, are you saying that the saint's fruit can truly make Xiao Bao undergo a rebirth, allowing him to overcome his current situation?" The saint's fruit is a unique item of the world. Its wonders and powerful effects are beyond doubt. I think only the saint's fruit will be able to help the boy if even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is useless to him. It's just, sigh. The 6th elder stopped talking and shook his head rather helplessly. 6th elder, it's just what? The heavenly enchantress stared at the 6th elder as she became rather anxious. It's just that it already has an owner now, and the owner is no ordinary person. Even the 10 protector clans can't do anything to him, so obtaining the fruit is impossible, the 6th elder sighed. He could not help but think of the rumors regarding the person in question. I must say that he really is an unprecedented genius. Not only is he a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, he's climbed to an extremely great level as a fighter as well. The 6th elder sighed emotionally inside and his emotions became rather mixed. The heavenly enchantress expression remained the same. An expert that even the 10 protector clans could do nothing to was not enough to waver her mental state. She inquired, 6th elder, just who is this person? Is it the human saint emperor? Or is it a saint emperor of the beast god continent? None of them. The 6th elder shook his head. This person is young. He's only become famous in recent years. Shangguan Mu'er, you spend most of your time on the island and rarely set foot on the continent. You definitely wouldn't know this person. His name is Jian Chen. A gleam of light flashed through the heavenly enchantress' eyes and she immediately responded with a different expression. What? This person is called Jian Chen? Surely he isn't the master Jian Chen we know. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately stood up in shock. Qin Qin became shocked as well. She immediately pulled out a scroll from her space ring and unrolled it. She asked, slightly emotional, "Esteemed Radiant Saint Master, please see whether it's this person or not." To no surprise, on the scroll was an image of Jian Chen. The image was extremely well drawn. It seemed realistic, as if he was present with them. Qin Qin had drawn the image when she was in the Tianqin clan, and she had kept it ever since. "Yes, it's him. Do you know Jian Chen?" This time, the person shocked was the sixth elder. His opinion of Qin Qin underwent a change. He had never thought that the lady who was not in possession of much strength would be carrying around an image of Jian Chen, and from how realistic the drawing was, he was certain that the artist had met Jian Chen before and had spent quite a lot of time together. Ah, it really is Master Jian Chen. Since when did Master Jian Chen become so powerful, where even the 10 protector clans can't even touch him? Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's mouths hung agape as disbelief flooded their faces. The heavenly enchantress stared blankly at the person in the image while her emotions became extremely mixed. She struggled to remain calm inside. Very soon, the heavenly enchantress shifted her gaze from the drawing and her eyes became cold again. After thinking a little, she said, "I'll visit the Tian Yuan continent immediately. Sixth Elder, thank you for your assistance. Would you like to stay on the island for a little longer? Or would you like to return to the continent with me?" "It's better if I return to the continent. Many experts have become heavily injured from the fight over the fruit before. So many Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters have been whisked away by various large clans. Right now, the Union is in need of manpower, so I should return," replied the sixth elder. In Lore City, the Bright Moon Divine Hall had shrunken to roughly 100 meters long and wide, but it continued to hang in the air. The atmosphere of the Chongyang clan had clearly become rather grim. There were many more guards on patrol, and the experts hidden on the estate had increased by several fold compared to any other day. Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao had made a full recovery with the origin energy of a Radiant Saint Master, but he lived in deep sorrow right now. His mind was somewhere else every day, and he was extremely gloomy. Everything that had happened in the Protector clan before played through his head like a brand new memory, severely affecting him. It left behind an irremovable scar in his heart. The Protector clan was his home. It was the place he had grown up, so he had many attachments to it. However, he knew that it would probably be impossible for him to return again now. Chongyang Zhu Yeyun stayed beside Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao, but she did not comfort him. All she did was sit quietly beside him. She no longer longed for her son ever since Chongyang Zhu Yunkong's return, filling in the gap within her mind. Her soul was strengthening every day, and she was about to break through to Saint King. Jian Chen did not tell anyone else about what had happened in the Protector clan. He did not even reveal the matter to his parents. He even made up a lie to them. After all, the matter had really been blown out of proportion by this time. It was not as simple as offending a Protector clan. It was offending a group of ancestors with shocking seniority over Chongyang Ba and the others. He did not want his parents worrying over this. Jian Chen, Yu Yu, and Tai Ta gathered in the most majestic hall within the Chongyang clan. Jian Chen had now made a complete recovery from his wounds. He wore luxurious robes with gold lining, like the young master of a large clan. "Jian Chen, the Chongyang clan has gone too far to treat you like that. It's fortunate that my master contacted me when you were in danger, or..." Yu Yu was furious. She felt lingering fear when she thought of Jian Chen's situation and secretly rejoiced that she had made it in time. "I will be taking revenge for this sooner or later," Jian Chen said emotionally and rather hoarsely. An extremely powerful killing intent was hidden inside him. This time, he really was almost doomed. If Yu Yu had not arrived in time with the Bright Moon Divine Hall, the outcome would have been unthinkable. He would definitely not have been able to keep the saint's fruit. He had spent a tremendous effort to obtain. Now that Tai Ta's identity has been revealed, I think Chongyang Qingyun and the others will definitely do something about it, Jian Chen gruffly said. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. "Jian Chen, let's get Tai Ta to hide within the Bright Moon Divine Hall. The toughness of the structure is incomparable to other divine halls. Even the experts of the 10 Protector clans won't be bold enough to step into it recklessly," suggested Yu Yu. She had gained some understanding from Jian Chen regarding Tai Ta's identity. "Young master, there is a secret letter for you." At this moment, a guard's voice rang from outside. "Come in, Jian Chen ordered. The door was gently opened and a guard entered with his head down. He carried a sealed letter. He directly delivered it to Jian Chen's hand. Jian Chen's face immediately sank when he read it. Clenching his hand, strands of chaotic force actually surged out, and with a bang, the letter was blown apart into dust. Jian Chen, what did the letter say that's made you so angry? Yu asked in concern. Some worry filled her face as well. Jian Chen slowly released his grip and gently sipped a mouthful of tea in a composed manner. He slowly answered, "It's from Chongyang Qingyun. He said that if I want to keep Tai Ta's identity a secret, I need to hand over the saint's fruit, or he'll call on the experts of the Tianyuan continent and Beast God continent to hunt Tai Ta down together." Chapter 1184. Poison. Chongyang Qingyun has just gone too far to threaten you for the saint's fruit with such conditions. His actions are no different from a shameless wretch. He's not worthy of being a great elder of a protector clan, Yu said righteously. Jian Chen had only obtained the saint's fruit with the assistance of Rue Jin and the other two after tremendous effort, so it should belong entirely to Jian Chen. Yet, Chongyang Qingyun had posed such a horrible condition on him as the strongest great elder of the Chongyang clan as well as Jian Chen Sr., which infuriated Yu. Tai Ta's complexion became rather horrible as well. He silently pondered as he sat there before making up his mind in the end. He said through clenched teeth, "Jian Chen, it's best if I leave here. Otherwise, you'll probably get dragged into it when Chongyang Qingyun works with all the people to hunt me down. I know many mysteries of war now. Even if I'm not their opponent, I can run." Jian Chen raised his hand to reject Tai Ta's suggestion without any hesitation. He stared at Tai Ta and responsibly said, "Tai Ta, don't ever say things like that again. The protector clans are very powerful, but they're not enough for us to fear. Even if they unite all the experts of the Tianyuan continent and the Beast God continent, can they really kill us? Tai Ta, don't be depressed. You can't forget that I have the Bright Moon Divine Hall as well. Master has said that the Divine Hall is so tough that even Saint Emperors can't get through its defenses, and she's cast down formations inside. There are absolute killing formations that can even wipe out Saint Emperors. As long as we have the Divine Hall, they can't do anything to us even if they unite the two continents," Yu said rather confidently. She felt an unhideable excitement inside since she finally had the power to help Jian Chen now. She could share Jian Chen's burden with him, which was an extremely important matter to her. At this moment, with a twitch in his expression, Jian Chen suddenly gazed off into the distance. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the structure and see outside clearly while the light in his eyes flickered. Afterward, Tai Ta's face twitched as well. He suddenly stood up and powerful killing intent bubbled from inside him. He said with his deep muffled voice, "Tai Ta, the people of the Chongyang clan have come attacking." Jian Chen shook his head and a sliver of doubt flickered through his eyes. He said, "Tai Ta, please wait. It may not be like what you've imagined. Let's go have a look first." A great group of people flew toward the city. They did not seem to be travel very quickly, and there were several hundreds of them. The people in the city saw the spectacular scene in the air and the entire city was thrown into a great hubbub again. All of them had become stunned by this. All of them knew that anyone who could fly in the air was at least a heaven saint master without any exception. There were only around a dozen in the entire kingdom, and a few of them had only recently appeared too. Every single one of them possessed a great status within the kingdom, able to stand on equal ground with the king. They rarely ever appeared in public. Yet now, they were seeing several hundred people flying in the air with a single glance. This pushed their shock to the utmost limit. The group of people directly flew to the Chongyang clan before all stopping at the front entrance in the end. All the high-ranking members of the clan had gathered at the entrance. They all stood there silently and no one said anything. The gloomy Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao stood at the very front. Chongyang Zhu Yeyun accompanied him by the side, and only after them was Jian Chen, Yu, Tai Ta, Chongyang Ba, and the others. Of the several hundred people, the old man who stood at the very front was the most authoritative great elder of the Zhu branch, Chongyang Zhu Shao. Chongyang Zhu Shao seemed rather decadent right now. His face was filled with loneliness, helplessness, sorrow, and so on. Unknowingly, he seemed even older now. There were both the old and young in the group behind Chongyang Zhu Shao, varying in strength. They could be as powerful as saint rulers or as weak as a few young men and children who were not even earth saint masters. They were carried by the people around them through the air. However, all of the older people were filled with loneliness. They were gloomy and their eyes were dull. Great-grandfather, what are you? Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao suppressed his sorrow and asked in doubt. Sigh. Chongyang Zhu Xiao deeply exhaled. Tears pooled in his weather-old eyes. He said, Shower, I can no longer stay in the clan after what's happened. I've already left the clan now while the people behind me are all members of the Zhu branch who were willing to come with me. Most of the others stayed behind. Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao violently jerked with that. He immediately clenched his fists before slowly letting go. He sighed at the sky and said, Leaving is good too, leaving is good too. On that day, the Chongyang clan increased by several hundred new members. However, all of them possessed great statuses. They were all members of the Protector Chongyang clan. Just the number of saint rulers exceeded 10. Even in the Protector clan, they possessed a certain level of status. Most of the saint rulers had chosen to leave with Chongyang Zhu Xiao, and only an extremely few number of people chose to stay behind. However, the group was not even 1/100th of the entire Zhu branch. Fortunately, the Chongyang clan was extremely large after it had been modified, so even after increasing by several hundred members, it did not feel cramped. Chongyang Ba made arrangements for the people appropriately while Chongyang Zhu Xiao obviously became the person with the highest status. Jian Chen was touched by Chongyang Zhu Xiao's actions, filling him with warmth. He now knew that he was not alone in the Protector clan. At least the Zhu branch stood by his side. Chongyang Zhu Xiao did not mention the saint's fruit at all. After greeting him, Jian Chen directly went to where Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu were staying. He Yu currently sat on his bed. His complexion was dark as the poison remained within him. The saint artifact had turned into a fist-sized golden tower as it slowly rotated above him, shining with a hazy light. Hong Lian and Rui Jin sat nearby in worry. They furrowed their brows while deep in thought. Senior He Yu, how are you? Has the poison still not been purged? Jian Chen's chest immediately tightened when he saw He Yu's condition. He Yu slowly opened his eyes and gently shook his head. He said, The poison that got me is extremely rare on the continent. It's far stronger than the venom of the venomous beast ranked at number 1, and even the artifact spirit cannot help me. Apparently, this is a poison that belongs to the 9th class. The artifact spirit can only use Radiant Saint Force at class 8, so it is not enough to purge the poison. Chapter 1185. Poison of Heaven's End. What? Even the artifact spirit isn't enough to purge it? How can there be such an unbelievably powerful poison on the continent? Jian Chen was shocked by what He Yu had said. Disbelief flooded his face. We've looked through all our inherited memories, and we have no records regarding He Yu's poison, which is why we're helpless against the poison as well, growled Rui Jin. He was extremely good friends with He Yu, so he felt rather horrible with He Yu in so much danger. The room fell silent for a while. None of them said anything as they all felt very heavy inside. The poison's potency had far exceeded everyone's imagination since Rui Jin and Hong Lian had no idea what it was, and even the Radiant Saint Force origin energy of the artifact spirit was not enough to nullify it. Hong Lian silently pondered and said, I can vaguely remember that it was a few saint kings who poisoned He Yu. They were likely members of a Protector clan. A Protector clan, Jian Chen softly mumbled. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes and he said, I'll go invite great-grandfather Chongyang Zhu Xiao. He's also a member of a Protector clan, and he's knowledgeable. He may be able to help out. Jian Chen immediately went to invite Chongyang Zhu Xiao. Without much longer, Jian Chen returned to where the three of them rested with a haggard Chongyang Zhu Xiao. Chongyang Zhu Xiao stared at He Yu for a while before he gradually frowned. He heavily said, I know this poison. It's the special technique of the Heaven's Incense School. The poison of Heaven's End. The poison of Heaven's End? How do we get rid of it? Rui Jin paced over to Chongyang Zhu Xiao's side and nervously asked. He was extremely worried. It's rumored that the poison can even claim the lives of saint emperors. Other than finding the antidote, there is no other way to purge it, replied Chongyang Zhu Xiao. If that's the case, let's kill our way into the Heaven's Incense School right now. Powerful battle intent radiated from Rui Jin. He was willing to venture into the most dangerous place in order to save Yu. No, you can't act recklessly with this. I admire your strength very much, and outside the independent realm the protector clans are not your opponent unless they use their emperor armaments. However, that's not outside, but the lair of a protector clan. You definitely won't be able to get anything from attack them like that because even a Saint Emperor can't penetrate through the defenses. If it weren't for the fact that something so big happened between us and the Chongyang clan, the Bright Moon Divine Hall would not have been able to get in so easily and then leave without any difficulty, explained Chongyang Zhu Xiao. Senior Rue Jin, we have to go to the Heaven's Incense School, but we need to make all preparations beforehand. All in all, the people of the two continents would never allow Tai Ta to successfully mature. Once Tai Ta's strength surpassed Saint Emperor, no one would be able to contend against him other than the young winged tiger god. Fairy Hao Yu, who created the Bright Moon Divine Hall, was the strongest Saint Emperor in her age. The records say that she had already arrived at the border of surpassing Saint Emperor, except she still failed in the end. On the other hand, her divine hall created from the special materials of the moon is very extraordinary where even Saint Emperors cannot destroy it. So sheltering him in the divine hall is indeed a good idea. However, when the time comes, you need to shelter the entire clan in it as well along with all the people you care about. Otherwise, I worry that they'll use these people to come threaten you. Chongyang Zhu Xiao said rather sternly. Jian Chen's expression changed slightly. He heavily replied, "The flame mercenaries will become rather troublesome. With their current scale, they've probably exceeded 1 million people in size, and there are many of them dispersed everywhere. Sheltering so many people in the Divine Hall will be very difficult. At the same time, Fairy Hao Yu is still alive. Her soul remains, and she possesses full control over the Divine Hall. Just in case she doesn't agree, it'll be, you might as well just let me seal up the Protector clan," Rue Jin suddenly piped up. What? You can seal up the Protector clan? Chongyang Zhu Xiao was astounded. He stared at Rue Jin in disbelief. Rue Jin nodded. My dragon clan has many paramount legacy secret techniques. There's one that can seal up a region of space. The Protector clan may inhabit an independent space, but its connection to the outside world cannot change. I can use the secret technique to seal up the entrance, and they can't leave like that, nor can they leak any information. Fantastic. That way, we don't have to worry about Tai Ta's identity being leaked. Senior Rue Jin, when will we seal up the entrance of the Chongyang clan? Jian Chen said rather impatiently. I'll need to visit Dragon's Island and retrieve some million-year dragon saliva from the necropolis. I'll use the essence of the herbs to complete the seal, but the seal can't last for too long. It might be a century, it might be a few decades, or it might even be just a few years before it's broken through by them, said Rue Jin. We'll drag it out if we can drag it out. Even if it's just a few years, it'll be enough. Jian Chen immediately became confident. He thought about Uncle Xiao who had entered seclusion with the Empyrean Demon Orb and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, again. Now that Uncle Xiao had the Empyrean Demon Orb, reaching Saint Emperor was no problem. If Tianjian consumed the Saint's fruit, reaching Saint Emperor would just be a matter of a few years. At this moment, an extremely pleasant melody rang out. Rue Jin had already left by the time Jian Chen had returned to the clan. He had set off for Dragon Island for dragon saliva by himself. They had already discussed everything, planning to seal up the Chongyang clan and then go to the Heaven's Incense School. Hong Lian had vanished as well, having entered the artifact space to prepare the formations needed. Whether it was sealing up the Chongyang clan or going to the Heaven's Incense School, they were all important matters. They needed to prepare for everything since they would be directly confronting them in their lair. It was not going to be a battle outside. At noon, later that day, a space gate suddenly ripped open above the clan. 2 old men in high spirits emerged with smiles. They radiated with powerful presences that engulfed the entire clan. They were 2 saint rulers. However, just as they emerged, their smiles hardened. More than 10 saint rulers had already appeared around them unknowingly. Every single one of them radiated with a much more powerful presence. Konger, it's Konger. A delighted voice rang out. Chongyang Zhu Yeyun rushed up in serendipity. The one of them was the ancestor of the Chongyang clan, Chongyang Zhu Yunkong, and the other was the caretaker of the clan, Chong Wuji. The faces of the saint rulers around them immediately became much more gentle when they heard it was Chongyang Zhu Yeyun. Some of them even began to smile amicably. So it's brother Yunkong. It's actually nephew Yunkong. All the saint rulers were members of the Zhu branch. Many of them were Chongyang Zhu Yunkong's elders, so they all greeted him. Chongyang Zhu Yunkong immediately became stunned when he recognized them with a single glance. Jian Chen came out to welcome them personally as well. However, what delighted him the most was that Uncle Chong had finally become a saint ruler, and his lifespan had been increased by 2,000 years. There was far too much that could happen in 2,000 years. His constitution could be completely changed using heavenly resources, allowing him to undergo a rebirth. Coupled with excellent conditions, he could reach another level of cultivation. Jian Chen could not say that he would become a saint emperor, but he was confident that reaching saint king would not be a problem. They all conversed a little before leaving. Chongyang Zhu Yunkong was obviously pulled away by Chongyang Zhu Yeyun while Jian Chen was taken by Uncle Chong to his room. Young master, it's really all because of these 3 beast furs that I've been able to reach saint ruler successfully. My talent is only a zo, and I've reached the end of my life. If it weren't for the beast furs and help from Shaoling, I never would have been able to reach saint ruler. Young master, I really need to thank you. Uncle Chong gratefully thanked him before handing the 3 beast furs to Jian Chen. It really was extremely difficult for him to break through to saint ruler this time. Jian Chen accepted the beast furs. He frowned slightly and said rather unhappily, Uncle Chong, don't ever say things like that, or I'm going to be unhappy. Uncle Chong chuckled and did not delve on the matter. He said, going into seclusion this time, Master and Huang Tianba have improved very rapidly. With Shaoling's assistance, it's countless times easier for them to comprehend the mysteries of the world compared to the ordinary rate, and they don't need to worry about the lack of energy. Huang Tianba's already reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler now. He wants to use the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reach Saint King in a single stroke. Uncle Chong paused there. He stared deeply outside the building and asked with a deep voice, Young master, has something happened recently? Why have so many seniors of the Zhu branch come to the clan? Uncle Chong was a saint ruler now as well. He was strong enough to take responsibility and manage things. So Jian Chen did not hide the situation from him. He told him what had happened in the Protector clan, which utterly stunned him. At this moment, a guard reported outside. Young master caretaker, the old madam has invited the 2 of you to the discussion hall. The old madam referred to by the guard was obviously Chongyang Zhu Yeyun. When Jian Chen and Uncle Chong arrived in the hall, they just happened to hear Chongyang Zhu Yunkong roar out, it's too far. They've gone too far. They really don't know shame if they can do things like this. Father, mother, from today on, let's completely break free from the Protector clan. In the future, the Protector Chongyang clan has nothing to do with our Chongyang clan of Lore City. Jian Chen knew that Chongyang Zhu Yunkong had learned the matter as well. Chongyang Qingyun and the others had indeed gone overboard with what had happened in regards to the saint's fruit this time. Otherwise, this many seniors of the Zhu branch would not have followed Chongyang Zhu Shao away. Chapter 1187. The Special Inn of Lore City. Jian Chen, Chong Wuji, Chongyang Zhu Yun Shao, Chongyang Zhu Yunkong, Chongyang Zhu Yeyun, Chongyang Zhu Shao, and the saint rulers from the Protector clan all gathered together. They focused on what had happened in the clan and their future development plans. Chongyang Zhu Yunkong was the most furious of them all. He spoke with a righteous tone as he suggested to completely break free from the Protector clan and make the Chongyang clan of Lore City independent, without any connections to the Protector clan. The exodus of Chongyang Zhu Zhao's clansmen of the Zhu branch coming to Lore City was already an explanation for everything. All that they lacked was a formal announcement. The atmosphere in the hall became heavy. Chongyang Zhu Shao and the others all became extremely heavy-hearted as well. None of them said anything. A while later, Chongyang Zhu Shao finally made up his mind. He clenched his teeth. From now on, I announce that I, Chongyang Zhu Shao, will be leaving the Protector Chongyang clan, and I will no longer have any connection with them. I also announce that I, Chongyang Zhu Yun Shao, will be leaving the Protector Chongyang clan. Chongyang Zhu Yun Shao was the second person to declare his stance. I, Chongyang Zhu Yeyun, will also be leaving the Protector Chongyang clan. All the people of the Zhu branch announced their departure from the Chongyang clan. They had already been prepared for this declaration since they had followed Chongyang Zhu Xiao to Lore City. The people who had left the Chongyang clan were only a small portion of the Zhu branch. Many more people chose to stay behind, but the people who came were the most powerful force of the Zhu branch. Jian Chen first visited his parents after the meeting. He spoke a little with them before visiting his 3 aunts. His first aunt, Ling Long, and his second aunt, Yu Fengyan, were in rather bad mental states. They had been separated from their children for many years and had not heard a single thing from them, so they missed their children very much. Yu Fengyan was better. Although she had not seen her daughter in many years, she was slightly relieved that her daughter was at least the holy maiden of a powerful organization. However, Ling Long was in a permanent state of alarm. What the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion had said to her before was deeply embedded in her head. Although Chongyang, who had become a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion and was heavily favored by the pavilion master, she did not feel happy at all. She feared that Chongyang who would abandon his family and friends, thus forgetting about her as his mother. Jian Chen's third aunt Bai Yushuang was extremely happy in recent years. With Jian Chen's help, her son's constitution had been modified, so even though he could not be compared to Jian Chen, his cultivation speed had still increased. He had become an Earth Saint Master just half a month ago. At the same time, Chong Yongku held his marriage several years ago. His wife was a princess of the kingdom, and the king himself had personally mentioned the engagement. Afterward, Jian Chen left the Chongyang clan with Yu Yu. They strolled around the city. Jian Chen, where are we going now? Yu Yu clung onto Jian Chen's arm as she looked at him in affection. Her face was filled with her gentle nature. You will find out very soon, Jian Chen smiled. Very soon, the two of them arrived in the center of the city, which was also the busiest area. A 4-story tall inn stood right in front of them. It was extremely luxurious and extravagant. To outsiders, it definitely seemed like an inn that only rich people could enter, but it was the exact opponent. Not only were there rich merchants and young masters of influential families in there were also noisy mercenaries. Yu, let's go in. It's been so long, so it's about time for me to visit Auntie. Jian Chen gently spoke before entering the place with Yu. Even though it was not mealtime, there were many people in the inn. The first floor was almost full with a great roaring hubbub of thunderous noise. It was deafening. Clearly, there were divisions regarding the prices of the inn. Most of the first floor was filled with mercenaries who fought and killed outside. They naturally radiated with bold presences. Only a few merchants ate on that floor as well. The wealthy merchants and scions of great clans had all gone to the second floor. They were not present on the first. An inn was a place where conflicts occurred the most. Frequently, a few vile-tempered mercenaries would get drunk off of liquor and lose themselves, fighting in the inn and leading to bloodshed in the end. When Jian Chen and Yu entered the inn, two groups of mercenaries began arguing. Fucking hell. Can you keep it down? You're so noisy that it's getting in the way of my drinking. A burly mercenary with fire-red hair furiously slammed the jug of liquor in his hand onto the table. He roared at some mercenaries who were talking loudly. The hubbub in the inn immediately disappeared. Everyone focused their attention on the red-haired mercenary. The table which he had yelled out fell silent as well. There were a total of 4 people there, and every single one of them were flushed from drinking. However, they all radiated with especially bold presences. This was something that only people who had experienced a slaughter would possess. Clearly, the 4 of them had gone through a trial of blood before. They were ferocious people who were frequently engaged in brutal battles. Bang! One of the 4 people heavily slammed the table, and a powerful force turned it into pieces. He glared at the mercenary and coldly said, "How dare you speak to us Baoxiong brothers like that? Do you find your lifespan too long? We cannot forgive this person for speaking to us like that. Let's take his life as an apology," one of the 4 people called out. His temperament was unnecessarily volatile as well. He had already condensed his saint weapon, which was a huge axe. The red-haired mercenary snickered. "I really wonder if you know how to spell death for speaking to me like that." As he said that, he clenched his hand and vast amounts of fire-attributed saint force immediately gushed out, quickly condensing into a huge fire-red sword. Earth Saint Master. And he can actually control fire-attributed saint force, the element with the greatest offensive capabilities of the 6. A few surprised mutters immediately appeared in the inn. Earth Saint Masters were rather rare in Lore City. The mercenary and the four brothers brandished their weapons. They were already close to fighting. At this moment, a middle-aged man who seemed to be a merchant stepped forward. He clasped his hands and gave them a smile. "You must not be people of the Jessen Kingdom, right? I am a Fang Yanhua, and I'd like to advise you that you've chosen the wrong place to fight. You must never cause trouble in this inn, or even Heaven Saint Masters will face disaster." Both parties' expressions changed when they heard that. Heaven Saint Masters were peak-level experts in their eyes. There were only around 10 of these powerful experts even with the entire kingdom in perspective. Of course, that was ignoring the hidden power of the Chongyang clan. The red-haired mercenary calmed down very quickly after being surprised. He did not believe what the local had said and laughed. "Even Heaven Saint Masters will face disaster? What? Is this inn protected by a saint ruler?" The merchant expected the mercenary to respond like that. He smiled. "That may not be the exact truth, but it's basically like that. This inn is a place protected by the Chongyang clan. The Chongyang clan has saint rulers." "Humph. Do you think I'll believe that a mere inn will receive the protection of the great Chongyang clan? Do you think I'm as easy to trick as a kid?" One of the four brothers sneered. They did not believe what the merchant had said. The merchant glanced at them in pity before sitting down again. He no longer paid any attention to them. The temperature in the inn rapidly climbed. The huge sword in the red-haired mercenary's hand was coated in a layer of red light, and he stabbed at the four brothers. The four brothers did not hold back either. They all drew their saint weapons, and they were all Earth Saint Masters as well. It was just that each one of them was not as powerful as the red-haired mercenary alone, so they needed to work together. At this moment, a group of people in black clothes quietly made their way in. There was a total of 12 of them, and all of them possessed neutral expressions. The leading middle-aged man was a Heaven Saint Master. Many people in the hall immediately began to look at them in envy and admiration. They were a disciplinary squad of the Chongyang clan, and even their weakest member was an Earth Saint Master. The simple, black clothing had become a representation of strength, status, and glory in the eyes of the people in the inn. "Take away all those who dare to make trouble here." The leading man coldly stared at the four brothers and the red-haired mercenary. Just his gaze was enough to make the 5 aggressive mercenaries shiver inside. All their intent to battle vanished. A Heaven Saint Master. The thought of death crossed their heads. They had never thought that they would actually provoke such a powerful expert and that it would happen so quickly. Was the inn really protected by the Chongyang clan? They even lost the courage to resist in front of a Heaven Saint Master. All 5 of them were taken away by the disciplinary squad. "Everyone please continue to enjoy your meals. I am the captain of this squad, Jiang Cheng. Please forgive me if I have disturbed you." Jiang Cheng did not act haughtily like a Heaven Saint Master. He seemed like any other person. This was not because he had no pride, but he would only show his pride outside. In the inn, he needed to lower himself even with his identity because he knew very well just how close the owner was with the Chongyang clan. He was not even willing to offend the guests of the inn. At this moment, Jiang Cheng's face suddenly hardened. He stared blankly at Jian Chen and Yu Yu, who were about to go to the second floor. His face became filled with disbelief, which was soon replaced by excitement and joy along with unhideable respect and admiration. Jiang Cheng quickly walked over and dropped to one knee in front of everyone. He said with a trembling voice, "I greet the young master and your majesty." Jian Chen smiled as he waved his hand. An invisible force pulled Jiang Cheng from the ground and he said, "A 5th cycle Heaven Saint Master, not bad. Jiang Cheng, guard this inn well. You can become a saint ruler within 100 years. Jiang Cheng became so happy that he was unable to express himself. He emotionally said, "Don't worry, young master. I will use my life to guard this inn. As long as my life is intact, no one will be able to cause trouble here." Jian Chen nodded before proceeding to the second floor of the inn. Only after a while did a commotion erupt on the first floor. "Young master? Is that young man the young master of the Chongyang clan? He's an imperial protector of our kingdom and a prodigy of the continent. He's become a saint ruler at such a young age. That's probably not all to it. I heard that the young master has become a saint king now. I never thought that I'd see the elusive young master of the Chongyang clan." All the people in the inn were extremely excited. The young master of the Chongyang clan was a legend across the continent. Although most people knew his name, there were very few who had actually seen him in person. Chapter 1188. A gift of the saints. Fruit. Jian Chen and Yu made their way to the top floor of the inn. The decor there was extremely different and did not match the extravagant building. The inn was the one owned by Sans and his mother. Protected by the Chongyang clan, it had turned into the most famous inns in the entire city from its initial form. There was no one who did not know where it was in the city, and its name had even rang through the kingdom. However, Sans and his mother only wanted to live a simple life. They did not possess any wild ambitions, or their inn would be much more than it already was with the influence of the Chongyang clan. The top floor of the inn was where Sans and his mother stayed. Jian Chen only saw the auntie and not Sans. Only after asking did he learn that Sans had joined the Flame Mercenaries. The auntie was an ordinary person and could not cultivate. She was in her early 50s, but she already seemed much older. Jian Chen and Yu talked with her for a while. He then asked, "Auntie, I have methods to change your constitution and let you undergo a rebirth. You will be able to cultivate just like us, and as long as you reach Earth, Saint Master, your lifespan will greatly increase." Kendall had saved Jian Chen's life before. Since he was no longer around, Jian Chen planned on returning the kindness to her and Sans. As a result, Jian Chen was considerate down to the tiniest detail when dealing with the two of them. If other people had heard what Jian Chen had said, they would definitely be ravished with joy. On the continent that advocated power, there was no one who did not wish to become powerful, as power represented status, glory, and wealth. However, she was not moved at all. What Jian Chen said possessed no attraction to her. She shook her head and said, "I thank you for your kindness, but I just want to be an ordinary person and live a stable life. I want to wait for death so I can meet Kendall in the other world. He's far too lonely there. I want to go and accompany him." Sorrow filled her eyes and tears seemed to pool in them. Jian Chen fell silent. He knew that she had already learned about what happened to Kendall. Although he had always hid it, the truth could not be hidden. Coupled with the fact that Sans had already joined the Flame Mercenaries, the news of Kendall's death was obviously impossible to hide. Yu went up and held her hands. She comforted Auntie, "Don't be so sad. Uncle may have left already, but you at least have Sans to accompany you in this world. You need to put yourself together and watch Sans mature properly." Jian Chen and Yu comforted her. They said a lot to her, staying there for 4 whole hours before leaving. Jian Chen was very silent on the way back. He worried very much about her inside while Yu obediently followed beside him. She affectionately clung to his arm, accompanying him in silence. Her eyes were filled with her gentle nature. Jian Chen sighed gently upon returning to the clan. He wanted to change her fate, but she chose to live a simple life, which filled him with helplessness. "Since Auntie has made the decision herself, we should support her silently," Jian Chen softly decided. Fighters had their world, and mortals had their happiness. He understood it all now. Thinking back to the times when he had ventured through wind and rain, a simple life would have been quite happy actually. Yu arrived beside him and gently hugged him. She stared at Jian Chen affectionately and gently said, "Jian Chen, there are many ordinary people who are much happier than us. If you're willing, I want to live an ordinary person's life with you. The world of fighters is filled with unavoidable fights and battles to the death. It really is very tiring." Jian Chen gently placed his arm around her thin waist as the fragrance from her hair hit his nose. He said, "Yuer, once we get through all the struggles of the Tianyuan continent, we'll find a beautiful, desolate place to settle down like hermits. We won't ever bother with the matters of the continent after that, okay?" Yu raised her head to look at Jian Chen in surprise and delight. Anticipation filled her face and she firmly nodded. "I do hope that day can come sooner." Jian Chen's lips perked up as he smiled. He lowered his head to kiss her forehead before he said, "But we need to have enough strength to deal with the situation in front of us in order to live a life like that. Yuer, I'll visit Mercenary City immediately. I'll leave the safety of the clan to you." Yu immediately became gloomy when she heard that Jian Chen would be leaving again. She stared at him, unwilling to part with him, and said, "I hope you come back soon." Jian Chen nodded in agreement before finding Chongyang Zhu Yunshao. He asked him to create a space gate to Mercenary City. Jian Chen was warmly welcomed by Mercenary City, personally received by an elder. He expressed that he had come to see Senior Tianjian, and the elder directly brought him to Tianjian's floating divine hall without saying a second word and sent up a message. It was in the same majestic hall where Jian Chen met with the gray-haired Tianjian. Even though he remained with an appearance of a middle-aged man, his vitality reduced with each coming day. He did not have much time left. Tianjian looked at Jian Chen in delight. When he had first met him, Jian Chen was only an Earth Saint Master. After a few decades, he had completely transformed. He had grown to his current greatness at an unbelievable rate. On the Tian Yuan continent, his talent was unprecedented. Jian Chen and Tianjian casually conversed. Then, Jian Chen pulled out a perfectly sealed embroidered box from his space ring. He said, "Senior Tianjian, I've caused a disturbance this time to give you this." Under the control of Jian Chen's mind, the box slowly flew toward Tianjian. A sliver of curiosity appeared on Tianjian's face. He opened the box and found a fist-sized fruit sitting quietly in there. It seemed very simple, but through his sharp senses, he could clearly feel an extremely great energy and the extremely profound truths of the world hidden within. The saint's fruit. Tianjian's face immediately and drastically changed. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm after seeing the fruit. He immediately closed the lid after crying out, afraid that the powers would leak away. The fruit had ripened, but it had returned to its original form. "Jian Chen, the saint's fruit is far too valuable, and you've risked your life to obtain it. You better take it back and use it on someone else. This bag of bones does not have much time anymore. If I consume it, it would be wasteful." Tianjian returned the fruit to Jian Chen without any reluctance. "Senior, I'll be honest. I ventured into the death nest specifically to gift the fruit to you, so it already belongs to you. Please accept it," Jian Chen sincerely replied. He paused before continuing, "Now that Tai Ta's identity has been leaked, I'm afraid that he will become a public enemy of the continent soon. I hope that after you become a Saint Emperor, you can help Tai Ta out." Tianjian became stern. He heavily said, "Tai Ta's identity is indeed a great matter. Probably both the Beast God continent and the Tian Yuan continent will have experts who want to deal with him. It's just fortunate that there aren't many Saint Emperors now. Jian Chen, as long as Tai Ta guarantees that he will not lead the 100 races to invade the Tian Yuan continent in the future, I will stand with him. Otherwise, I won't be helping him even if you give me the fruit. Don't worry, Senior. If Tai Ta dares to do something like that in the future, I would be the first one to resent him. At that time, I will stand with the Tian Yuan continent. I swear to protect the lands of us humans." Jian Chen sternly swore. Actually, he had no idea just how Tai Ta would turn out in the future. However, he was his friend right now, at the very least one of his best friends. Tianjian hesitated before finally accepting the fruit. He said, "Once I become a Saint Emperor, I'll step down as Grand Elder and leave Mercenary City. Otherwise, I'll just cause problems for the city. Although the city is powerful and is unshakable with its deep heritage, I can't let such a holy place become a region that people will end up drooling over." Jian Chen had fulfilled his intentions for coming to the city after giving away the fruit. He immediately left the floating divine hall. Tianjian stood in the divine hall as he watched Jian Chen leave. Only after quite a while did he look away. He stared blankly at the box in his hand as his heart was strewn with many emotions. A long while later, Tianjian finally sighed. He shook his head rather helplessly and said, "I never thought that Jian Chen would risk his life and obtain the saint's fruit after so many difficulties to just give it to me." Jian Chen left the miniature world of Mercenary City through a space gate and returned to the city. "Brother, have you finished with your stuff? Can you play with me now?" Xiao Ling's voice rang through Jian Chen's head. Afterward, her illusionary figure appeared, drifting around in front of him. The street was packed with people, but no one else could see her other than Jian Chen. Jian Chen's gaze became gentle. He treated Xiao Ling as his own sister, and he laughed. "Xiao Ling, take me to the underground space first. I might as well visit my old friends." Xiao Ling happily agreed. Jian Chen immediately felt an invisible but irresistibly powerful force surround him. Afterward, the space in front of him blackened. He had already vanished from the street, which did not grab anyone's attention. Xiao Ling floated around Jian Chen in the underground space. She was extremely happy and she proudly said, "Big brother, with my assistance, your friend's strength has increased very quickly. You can't forget what I've done." Xiaoling looked around and a cunning light flashed through his eyes. She made her way in front of Jian Chen for mystery's reasons and mischievously said, "Big brother, I want a reward. I've helped you so much, so you have to reward me." Chapter 1189. The Innate Chaotic Body. 1. Jian Chen chuckled. He looked at how cute and innocent Xiaoling was and affectionately asked, "Then Xiaoling, how do you want me to reward you?" "The reward I want is for Big brother to come visit me often in the future," Xiaoling giggled. "All right, no problem. I will come visit you often when I have the time. Is that okay?" Jian Chen laughed. "Awesome, Big brother. Don't go back on your word." Xiaoling danced in joy. She was extremely happy. Under Xiaoling's lead, Jian Chen was taken to where Ming Dong and Huang Tianba had gone into seclusion. Both of them were captivated by the comprehension of the mysteries of the world and entered a state of selflessness. Jian Chen only watched from afar. He did not disturb the two of them. In recent years, they had spent all their time here comprehending the mysteries of the world invoked by Xiaoling. They were comprehending them from an extremely clear perspective, allowing them to understand the profound truths of the world better. This was countless times easier compared to when they were alone, searching within the layers of mist, so the rate at which they cultivated was shocking. Huang Tianba has already reached the 8th heavenly layer now. He's not far from the 9th anymore, and if he continues like this, he'll probably become a glorious saint king in just a year. Ming Dong's rate of improvement was extremely great as well. His talent was impressive and coupled with Tianjian and Xiaoling's assistance, he had already reached the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Jian Chen did not stay for too long. He promised Xiaoling that he would visit again very soon before leaving through the space gate at Mercenary City. Xiaoling looked in the direction Jian Chen had vanished off to in reminiscence. She mumbled, "Master's smell on Big Brother is getting fainter and fainter. Looks like it's been a very long time since Big Brother saw Master. But that doesn't matter anymore. As long as Big Brother visits me often, I will be very happy." Big Brother said that as long as I work hard on the cultivation method left behind by Master, I'll be able to see Master soon. Big Brother will not trick me, so I can't keep snoozing. I need to work hard on cultivation. Xiaoling clenched her fists tightly as determination filled her face. She seemed to have made a very important decision. Jian Chen returned to Lore City, and Rue Jin had also returned from Dragon Island with enough dragon saliva. Hong Lian had also refined all the materials into formations and had come out of the artifact space. Their operation to seal up the Protector Chongyang clan was about to happen. Jian Chen, Yu Yu, Hong Lian, and Rue Jin gathered together to discuss the plan. Only the four of them would be participating in the operation as He Yu was just too heavily poisoned. However, she looked at Jian Chen. Jian Chen had not expected the heavenly enchantress to come at this time. He said to Yu Yu, "I'll be right back." With that he left. Jian Chen could not sense the heavenly enchantress' presence nor could he identify where the melody came from. All he could do was expand his presence to find her. A while later, Jian Chen retracted his presence and shot into the sky. He vanished into a thick layers of clouds in the blink of an eye. In the sea of clouds, the wind whistled in an ear-piercing fashion. Jian Chen walked through the clouds as his robes and hair were buffeted by the wind. The heavenly enchantress stood in the clouds. A veil covered her face, obscuring her appearance like before, but the zither of the demonic cry was no longer in her hands. Next to her stood a young, white, and chubby boy. She held onto his hand as invisible world force wrapped around him, obstructing the whistling gale. Jian Chen instinctively looked at the boy and his body immediately jerked. He was no longer able to shift his focus. The chaotic Niden within his dantian, which had always sat silently, began to violently tremble. Strands of chaotic force surged out, rampaging through his body uncontrollably. CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1190. The Innate Chaotic Body, 2. The boy stared at Jian Chen in complete curiosity with his naive and innocent eyes. His white, chubby face became flushed very quickly and his body temperature skyrocketed. The heavenly enchantress was holding on to Xiao Bao's hand. She discovered that his hand had become boiling hot, so she immediately began to panic. She asked in concern, "Xiao Bao, why have you become so warm?" It's so hot," Xiao Bao said uncomfortably. His face had become completely flushed while his body temperature continued to skyrocket, quickly reaching a point that ordinary people could not endure. However, Xiao Bao was not in any pain other than being in discomfort. The heavenly enchantress quickly dropped down and touched Xiao Bao all over in a panic. To her surprise, Xiao Bao was boiling hot all over, as if he had become a flaming hot searing iron. Why would this happen? Why would Xiao Bao suddenly become so warm for no reason? The heavenly enchantress became more and more flustered inside. Xiao Bao's temperature had already reached an unbelievable level. If he was an ordinary person, he probably would have passed away long ago. Jian Chen's face also became rather red. Not only did the chaotic Niden in his dantian lose control when he caught sight of Xiao Bao, even his blood began to flow faster. If the normal flow rate of his blood was like someone walking, it had turned into an uncontrollable horse right now. It quickly flowed within him in an extremely violent fashion. Surprise filled Jian Chen's face. He had no idea why this would suddenly happen. He too could not come up with an answer after thinking very much. It was the first time something like this had happened since he had begun cultivating the chaotic body. Vaguely, Jian Chen seemed to feel that he resonated with the boy in front of him in a certain sense. The two of them were drawn together. It was not just an attraction of chaotic force, but the attraction of a much deeper bloodline. Suddenly, Jian Chen seemed to think of something. He stared at the bright red Xiao Bao in shock, and he could not help but begin to gently tremble. Excitement and disbelief filled his eyes. Jian Chen made his way through the clouds and slowly arrived by Xiao Bao's side. He crouched down and gently rubbed Xiao Bao's head. He asked, "Child, what's your name?" Xiao Bao suddenly felt much better as Jian Chen slowly rubbed his head. Although he still felt like he was on fire, which was very uncomfortable, he did not continue to get hotter. Xiao Bao stared unblinkingly at Jian Chen's well-defined handsome face and instinctively answered, "I'm called Xiao Bao." As soon as he said that, the heavenly enchantress pushed Jian Chen away. She stared at him furiously and said, "Don't touch Xiao Bao. Stay away from him." Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao. Jian Chen became rather absent-minded as he mumbled Xiao Bao's name. His heart beat violently and his gaze toward Xiao Bao was now filled with a gentleness that had never appeared before. "He's my child, right? He's my son," Jian Chen asked with a trembling voice. He did not need the heavenly enchantress reply since he could sense it through his bloodline. This was a characteristic that only unique constitutions possessed. The heavenly enchantress became utterly flustered. She had once weaved countless lies for Xiao Bao's identity, but she never thought that Jian Chen would see through it all with a single glance before she could say anything. No, he's not your child. Xiao Bao's not your child." The heavenly enchantress lost her usual composure and pulled Xiao Bao behind her in a flustered manner. Xiao Bao's identity had always been her greatest secret, yet it had been revealed today, and it had been revealed to the person that she did not want to know about it the most. It completely unnerved her. However, Jian Chen already knew the answer from her vehement denial and response. He felt extremely mixed feelings at that moment in time. Xiao Bao stuck his head out from behind the heavenly enchantress and looked at Jian Chen in curiosity. He asked with a clear voice, "Are you my dad?" "No, Xiao Bao, he's not your dad," the heavenly enchantress followed up quickly. Her eyes gradually became misty, and she immediately used her hands to cover Xiao Bao's eyes, preventing him from seeing Jian Chen. "Mom, you're lying. I can feel that he's my dad." Xiao Bao tried very hard to peel away the heavenly enchantress' hands from his eyes, but how could the heavenly enchantress let him? She pressed down harder and harder, but she did it very gently in fear that she would harm him. "Mom, I want to see Dad. I want to see," Xiao Bao yelled and began to use everything he had. Immediately, a faint layer of gray gas appeared from his hand. With its appearance, the light in the surroundings twisted slightly, as if it had been drawn toward the gas. Looking closely, it could even cause the wrong impression. The gray gas seemed to contain the various colors of the world, and almost any color of the world could appear within it, but it contained all of them. However, all the colors seemed to disappear again the next moment while the faint grayness now seemed ordinary. Xiao Bao's power also increased at an extraordinary rate with the appearance of the gray gas. He pulled off the heavenly enchantress' hands in one stroke, which stunned her. Jian Chen became rather stunned as well. He stared blankly at the rapidly vanishing gas around Xiao Bao's hands as his heart began to churn. Chaotic force. This is chaotic force. How is this possible? Jian Chen became extremely shocked. He struggled to believe what he had just seen. Thinking back to when he had first started cultivating the chaotic body, he completely relied on the sword spirits and still needed to endure excruciating pain. In no way was it easy, yet Xiao Bao was clearly a child, but he could control chaotic force. It was impossible for him to not be shocked. This was because only Jian Chen knew just how rare the chaotic body was. Even in the age that the sword spirits had come from, it was still almost non-existent. Suddenly, two streaks of light, one azure and one violet, appeared above Jian Chen's head. They quickly condensed into a boy and girl. The boy was handsome while the girl was pretty. Standing together, they seemed like a match made in heaven. The sword spirits had appeared after so long, and their forms seemed to be even more solid than before. The sword spirits looked at Xiao Bao, and their eyes became filled with serendipity. The innate chaotic body. An innate chaotic body has actually appeared here. Ziying could not help but cry out. His face was filled with excitement. Qing Sua also clenched her hands. She stared at Xiao Bao without blinking at all, and she was extremely excited as well. She said, "It really is the innate chaotic body, and its master's child. Fantastic, this is just fantastic." Jian Chen could obviously hear what the sword spirits had said, so he became even more excited inside. The heavenly enchantress and Xiao Bao were both drawn to the sword spirits. They looked at the two of them. Xiao Bao became extremely curious while the heavenly enchantress' eyes narrowed. She was skilled in attacks of the soul, so her own soul was extremely powerful. She could feel the sword spirits existed as soul-like entities, but they were different than what she understood. "Who are you? What innate chaotic body?" The heavenly enchantress became filled with caution. She carefully protected Xiao Bao by stepping in front of him. Before the sword spirits, she felt an extremely great threat. She knew that they were extremely terrifying souls and that they were different from all other regular souls. Qing Sua smiled when she saw how cautious the heavenly enchantress had become. She said softly, "Mistress, there's no need to get nervous. We are sword spirits and I am called Qing Sua while he's called Ziying. Don't worry, we won't harm you. The chaotic body is the most powerful constitution in the world while chaotic force in the most powerful energy in the world. Your child has been born with the chaotic body, so he can control chaotic force." The heavenly enchantress became rather confounded by what Qing Sua had said. Xiao Bao was in possession of the world's strongest body? And he could control the world's strongest energy? Did that mean Xiao Bao could cultivate and was not a cripple whose constitution could not even be modified by a 10,000-year heavenly resource? "Dad, are you my dad?" Xiao Bao could not understand what the sword spirits were saying. He looked at Jian Chen again with his bright eyes. Chapter 1191. Shangguan Aojian. The sword spirits remained silent for a while before Ziying then explained. "It's not because the innate chaotic body cannot cultivate, but no cultivation method in the world is suitable for the chaotic body. Only a corresponding approach will work. And the growth of the chaotic body is nowhere near as simple as you have thought. The first step of cultivation would be to forge and refine the body. Only after that's completed will chaotic force appear inside the body." Was that gray energy that appeared on Xiao Bao's hands before chaotic force? The heavenly enchantress stared at Ziying without blinking. At that moment, she dedicated all her attention to Xiao Bao. She wanted to learn the mysteries of Xiao Bao's chaotic body as soon as possible. However, she could not help but think of Jian Chen when she thought about the gray energy that had appeared before. She had once seen the power controlled by Jian Chen, and her sharp senses picked up that the gray gas was extremely similar to the power used by Jian Chen. It was just that Xiao Bao's power lacked a presence of destruction. Correct. That's chaotic force, but it's only chaotic force hidden within him to refine his body. Since Xiao Bao became excited just then, he subconsciously activated it. However, Xiao Bao's chaotic body has not been fully forged, so all the energy he absorbs will fuse into his flesh and forge his body on its own. Only once this step has been completed will chaotic force appear within the Dantian, and he will be able to cultivate. Ziying explained in detail. The heavenly enchantress sank into her thoughts. She mumbled, "Looks like it's not that the heavenly resource was useless to Xiao Bao, but it was not enough to fulfill what he needed. The chaotic force is a power that belongs to the apex of the cosmos. Forging a single strand of the power will require vast quantities of energy. Let alone a single 10,000-year heavenly resource, even 10 won't be enough, because Xiao Bao's chaotic body has not even progressed to a tenth of the forging from my observations. Such a weak body cannot withstand the rampage of chaotic force," Qing Sua seriously explained. She and Ziying were both sword spirits, but they had existed for an extremely lengthy amount of time. They had seen people with the chaotic bodies many times, so they possessed an extremely clear understanding regarding the strongest body of the world. Sigh. Ziying suddenly exhaled. His gaze toward Xiao Bao became rather melancholy as he said, "I can't even remember how long it's been since the innate chaotic body has appeared. From what I can remember, even in our world, the innate chaotic body only appeared 3 times since most chaotic bodies were acquired. It's just the energy of the world here is far too thin. It's already extremely difficult to accommodate Master's chaotic body. Now with an innate chaotic body, the resources are nowhere near enough, and the further he progresses, the energy he needs will become even more tremendous." The heavenly enchantress became stunned and she slightly frowned. From what Ziying had said, she could already tell that it would probably be extremely difficult for Xiao Bao to increase his strength in the future. Things will sort themselves out. Ziying, Qing Sua, I will obviously find a way to find the energy Xiao Bao needs in the future to increase his strength. The most important matter right now is for Xiao Bao to finish forging his body, said Jian Chen. He paused and sank into thought before continuing. Ziying, Qing Sua, Xiao Bao is in possession of the chaotic body just like me. Can I use my own chaotic body to help him forge his body? No. Ziying declined without a second thought. He sternly explained, Master, Xiao Bao may be in possession of the innate chaotic body, but in terms of strength, his body has not reached the appropriate toughness. He can't endure the chaotic force of the 3rd layer. Looks like I can only use heavenly resources, Jian Chen regretfully replied. Just the resources required to elevate the chaotic body from the 1st layer to the 3rd layer were terrifying, while the energy required to reach the 4th layer was even more terrifying. Jian Chen could already imagine just how difficult it would become for Xiao Bao to increase his strength. To the sword spirits, 2 chaotic bodies appearing at the same time was a grievous matter in this world that lacked energy. Jian Chen calmed down and looked at Xiao Bao in his arms. He said, Xiao Bao, the name your mother gave you is not great. Do you want your father to give you another one? Okay. Xiao Bao did not feel conflicted at all and agreed in straightforward manner. Then let me think what name I should give you. Jian Chen furrowed his brows as he thought seriously. The heavenly enchantress' eyes grew cold and she took Xiao Bao back in one stroke. She said, You don't need to worry about that. I've already given Xiao Bao a name. He will be called Shangguan Baoer. Shangguan Baoer? Why the surname Shangguan? Jian Chen asked in uncertainty. The heavenly enchantress coldly replied, I will never let you change Xiao Bao's surname to Chongyang. Jian Chen pondered a little and replied in a serious tone, I never planned on changing his surname to Chongyang, but the surname Jian does not sound great either. Oh well, I'll go with your suggestion. Xiao Bao's surname will be Shangguan, but I need to change his given name. Jian Chen and the heavenly enchantress became embroiled in an intense argument over Xiao Bao's given name, but it was finally agreed on in the end. Shangguan Aojian. Xiao Bao seemed rather happy with the name as well, so he constantly let out his excitement in a happy tone in the heavenly enchantress' arms. Afterward, Jian Chen pulled out 20 10,000-year heavenly resources and gave them to the heavenly enchantress so Xiao Bao could establish a foundation in cultivation. Most of the heavenly resources were found on Dragon Island by the White Tiger. Now that the tiger had reached Class 7, the heavenly resources were insignificant to him, so using them on Xiao Bao was more suitable. At this moment, Jian Chen sternly made a request as he stared at the heavenly enchantress. I have something else I wish you can help me with. My good friend Tai Ta is the war god of the 100 races. His identity has been discovered by the protector Chongyang clan, and the great elder Chongyang Qing Yun wants me to give him the saint's fruit, or he'll announce Tai Ta's identity. At that time, the experts from both the Tian Yuan continent and the Beast God continent will come looking for trouble with us. In order to keep Tai Ta's identity a secret, I have decided, along with Senior Rue Jin and the others, to seal up the passage between the Chongyang clan and the outside world. However, it will be rather difficult for us to accomplish that task with our current strength, so I hope you can assist me. Deal with the problems you caused yourself. The heavenly enchantress replied rather ruthlessly before turning to the sword spirits. She said, I hope you can pass on a suitable method of cultivation to Xiao Bao. Ziying did not hesitate at all. After all, this was Jian Chen's child, so he extended a finger toward him. A violet light flashed out and disappeared into the center of Xiao Bao's eyebrows. Xiao Bao's head dropped, and he immediately fell asleep in the heavenly enchantress' arms. The heavenly enchantress glanced at Xiao Bao gently. Now that her reasons for coming had been fulfilled, she no longer had any need to stay. She shot off into the distance as a streak of light with Xiao Bao, disappearing into the horizon very quickly. Jian Chen sighed at the sky as the heavenly enchantress departed. He felt both joy and worry. He was joyous over the fact that he suddenly had a son, but he worried over the fact that the heavenly enchantress had declined to assist them in dealing with the Chongyang clan. The pressure they would be under in carrying out the operations had increased a lot. Before Tai Ta's matter has been dealt with, I can't expose that I have a son, or it'll probably bring a lot of problems to Xiao Bao. Even the heavenly enchantress might get dragged into all of this, Jian Chen thought. He knew that if he did not hand over Tai Ta out of his own accord after his identity was leaked, the experts of the Tianyuan continent and Beast God continent would use everything they had to target his family and his friends, the people close to him in particular. As a result, he could not let too many people know about Xiao Bao. I never thought that the person who benefited from absorbing the Supreme Yin Qi and Supreme Yang Qi from the Yin Yang Saint Rock would be her. Qing Sua murmured to herself as an odd light filled her eyes. Ziying murmured as well. He said, the mother of the innate chaotic body will be blessed by the heavens. Since she has given birth to someone in possession of the chaotic body, she will receive endless benefits as well. Not only will her strength rapidly increase, her potential is unlimited. If she continues down the path of cultivation, she'll definitely become an immortal emperor at the very least, and she'll be the strongest one among all the immortal emperors. Jian Chen returned to the Chongyang clan and did not tell anyone about Xiao Bao. However, Rue Jin obviously became extremely regretful when he learned that the heavenly enchantress had declined to assist them. We can't drag it out any longer. We've already completed the preparations, so let's set off as soon as possible, Rue Jin decided in a heavy voice. They had already made thorough preparations for what they were about to do next. Afterward, Jian Chen, Rue Jin, Hong Lian, and Yu Yu set off for the Protector clan together. The Bright Moon Divine Hall floating above the city was taken back by Yu Yu. The Bright Moon Divine Hall would be their greatest defense while dealing with the Chongyang clan this time. A large number of magical beasts dwelled in an ancient, desolate mountain range that was extremely far away from Lore City. Not only were there terrestrial beasts, there were also birds that could fly in the sky. There were even quite a few Class 6 magical beasts. CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1192. Sealing the Chongyang clan. 1. Deep growls and elated cries would reverberate from the quiet mountain range from time to time. There would even be a few magical beasts hunting. Their intense fights created loud roars and chilling cries that rang out far and wide, scaring all the weaker magical beasts back to their dens. Large group of Class 2 and 3 vultures flew through the air in a circle over a certain area. They constantly scanned across the landscape with their merciless eyes. As soon as they found a suitable target, the entire flock would move and devour the magical beasts. Although the vultures were not powerful by themselves, they had the advantage of numbers. There were several hundred of them, so even Class 4 magical beasts would become their prey. An elated cry rang out from the distance. A black speck suddenly appeared on the horizon, flying toward the flock of vultures. All the birds immediately became uneasy and fled in all directions in a hurried manner. They seemed to have encountered something terrifying, scaring them all. The speck rapidly grew larger. It was a flying magical beast with the body of a snake, 4 wings, and a pair of sharp claws. It dove into the flock of vultures. It caught a vulture with its mouth and 2 others in its sharp claws. The claws punctured the vultures' bodies, causing them to uncontrollably produce a chilling cry from the excruciating pain. As the vultures fled in all directions, arrows of energy shot out of their mouths. They quickly flew toward the four-winged magical beast. The magical beast did not dodge. It looked at the arrows like they were jokes and used its body to resist the vulture's most powerful attacks. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of clashing metal appeared since the unimpressive black feathers on the magical beast were actually extremely tough. The most powerful attacks from the vultures were not enough to pose any harm to it. The magical beast had already reached Class 5. There was a divide between Class 5 and Class 4. The several hundred Class 2 and 3 vultures could indeed kill Class 4 magical beasts without much difficulty, but they could do nothing to one that was Class 5. The four-winged magical beast flapped its wings. It charged toward the other vultures as a black streak of light. It still held a vulture in its mouth, and the two within its claws struggled violently. It spread its wings wide and all the vultures were cleaved in half as soon as they came in contact with the steel-like wings. Blood dyed the air. In just a few seconds, over 20 vultures had died to the four-winged magical beast, yet it also stopped its hunt at this moment as well. It glanced coldly and viciously at the vultures that fled into the distance as a human-like sliver of disdain appeared in its eyes. The magical beast seemed to sense something. A gleam of light flashed through its human-like eyes as it raised its head to look up. Afterward, it suddenly began to plummet with a flap of its wings, disappearing into the thicket underneath. The space several hundred meters up suddenly began to twist violently, before it was ripped open. A colorful space gate stabilized in just a few seconds and Rui Jin, Hong Lian, Jian Chen, and Yu Yu emerged in order. The space gate also rapidly disappeared after they had appeared, and the space there returned to how it had been before. Rui Jin, Hong Lian, Yu Yu, and Jian Chen all looked ahead. The world gate connecting the protector Chongyang clan to the outside world was hidden 100 meters in front of them. The world gate was hidden extremely well, making it impossible for anyone to notice any signs of it. However, the disadvantage of a world gate was that its location could not be moved. Rui Jin seemed to sense something at this moment. A weird light appeared in his eyes, and he turned to the thicket beneath him. His ordinary gaze pierced through the vegetation and clearly saw what was hidden beneath. I never thought that I'd find a winged dragon here. It contains a sliver of the dragon clan's bloodline, Rui Jin said in surprise. To him, this was a complete surprise. The thicket beneath began to shake slightly and the four-winged magical beast slowly flew out. It was very intelligent, so it did not keep hiding after learning that Rui Jin had discovered it. The four-winged magical beast did not move quickly. It kept its head very low and steadily made its way in front of Rui Jin. It behaved like a servant and its sharp gaze had completely disappeared now. It was now replaced by respect. The four-winged magical beast was a winged dragon that possessed a sliver of the dragon clan's bloodline. Although it was not pure, it could still be considered a close relative of the dragons, which was why it possessed such a sensitivity toward the bloodline of dragon kings. Now that the dragon clan had disappeared, Rui Jin immediately felt especially close to the winged dragon. He asked, "Are there more dragons other than you?" The winged dragon immediately shook its head and produced several deep growls after listening to what Rui Jin said. Rui Jin gently sighed and a sliver of despair appeared in his eyes. Afterward, he said to the winged dragon, "A great battle is about to erupt here. Leave immediately so you don't get harmed by the shockwaves." The winged dragon bid farewell to Rui Jin courteously before leaving. With a flap of its wings, it immediately turned into a blur and shot off into the distance. It moved extremely quick. After the winged dragon's departure, Rui Jin's gaze returned to where the world gate of the Chongyang clan was. He heavily said, "I'll use the absolute secret technique of the dragon clan to seal up this region of space immediately. Be prepared. As I seal it, there will be great ripples of energy that will definitely raise the attention of the people in the clan. When the time comes, you have to fight in the protector clan, not outside." Hong Lian, Jian Chen, and Yu Yu sternly nodded. Afterward, the light of flames shot into the sky and the surrounding temperature began to increase quickly. Both the 9 refined Godfire Feathermail and Scorching Godfire Hairpin had appeared on Hong Lian. With a flip of his hand, Jian Chen drew his emperor armament from his space ring. He clenched the hilt tightly as his chaotic Niden constantly spat out chaotic force, filling up every inch of his body instantly. Yu Yu also carried the bright moon divine hall in her palm.
She gently threw it into the air and the divine hall expanded in the incoming wind.
It became several dozen meters long in the blink of an eye, and the main entrance opened slowly. Immediately, pure moonlight flowed out and enveloped Yu before sucking her in. Ruijin had also pulled out 9 stalks of dragon's saliva from his space ring. Every single stalk was as tall as a full-grown man, yet they seemed ordinary, just like any old weed. There was nothing special about them. The million-year-old dragon's saliva hid tremendous amounts of pure vital energy. Similar to the saint's fruit, it had already reached the level of returning to its original simple looks. The 9 stalks hovered in the air and created a formation. Ruijin then bit his finger and allowed a droplet of golden blood to fall on each of the 9 grasses, which was then immediately absorbed. The jade-green leaves of the dragon's saliva slowly turned golden, and an extremely pure vital energy pervaded them. The energy seemed to have been activated by the drop of blood. Ruijin did not stop at all and immediately began to create hand seals. He used a secret technique of the Dragon Clan to activate all the vital energy within the grasses. Immediately, a vast amount of vital energy, so great that it was enough to disturb Jian Chen, appeared. After the accumulation of over 1,000,000 years, the energy within the grasses was so vast that no one could measure it. A huge and majestic divine hall sat on the floating piece of land within the space of the Protector Clan. In an extremely well-adorned room, Chongyang Qingyun paced around while deep in thought, as if something weighed on his heart. His expression was filled with some worry and anticipation, and he wasn't as composed as he usually was. Over the past few days, all he could think of was the saint's fruit. He did not care for the departure of Chongyang Zhu Xiao and his clansmen at all. Nothing was more important than becoming Saint Emperor. Although the Chongyang clan's strength had plummeted with their departure, Chongyang Qingyun remained completely indifferent. This was because even if the Chongyang clan had become the weakest protector clan out of the 10, their status still could not be replaced by another organization. The heritage they possessed was so deep that no ancient clan could match up against them. At this moment, Chongyang Qing Yunfeng walked in from outside. He was rosy and possessed much vigor, currently in a great condition. He had been injured by Chongyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding god's punch, but he had been completely healed with the medicines of the clan. Qing Yun, do you think Jian Chen will give up the saint's fruit on of his own accord for the war god of the 100 races? Chongyang Qing Yunfeng asked. Chongyang Qing Yun thought in silence and responded soon afterward. Over the past few days, I've specifically investigated Jian Chen. According to what I know, he should be a person who views ties of friendship with great importance. He definitely won't forsake his friend's safety for the sake of his own benefits. If the reports describe him correctly, he'll definitely obediently hand over the fruit because he knows the war god will definitely die if he doesn't. Chongyang Qing Yunfeng remained silent for a while. He then sternly said, Qing Yun, you should know what it means now that the war god of the 100 races has appeared. Our Tian Yuan continent no longer has a sovereign-like figure like in the ancient times. If we let the war god go for the saint's fruit, the Tian Yuan continent will definitely face disaster in the future after he matures. Not to mention, we're using him to coerce Jian Chen for the saint's fruit. In the future, he'll definitely take revenge against us first after he matures. Chongyang Qing Yun sinisterly smiled with that. Yunfeng, you don't need to worry about that because the war god won't have the chance to become a sovereign-like figure. Chongyang Qing Yunfeng stared blankly before understanding very quickly. He too evilly smiled. Are you saying that you'll leak the war god's identity as soon as you obtain the saint's fruit? Correct. The war god will definitely become a sovereign-like figure in the future. Even if I use the saint's fruit to break through to Saint Emperor, I won't be anywhere near his opponent. How can I let such a powerful opponent successfully grow? Chongyang Qing Yun sneered. Then I don't have to worry. Chongyang Qing Yunfeng smiled. At this moment, Chongyang Qing Yun's expression changed. He heavily said, Oh no, someone's attacking our Chongyang clan. With that, he disappeared and reappeared at the entrance of the Divine Hall. At the same time, the heavy sound of a bell rang through the entire clan. It was the sound of the bell of grand clarity, but a chilling aura was present, as if it was a war drum. With the chime, the quiet clan immediately fell into a commotion. More and more people emerged from their residences or flew over from various mountain peaks on the floating piece of land. The bell of grand clarity had 2 different chimes. One was peaceful, used specifically to welcome valued guests, while the second one could shock the souls of people. It was filled with a chilling presence, and it was the alarm for battle. The 5 remaining great elders stood beside one another in front of the divine hall. They were all stern. Through the sensing mirror of the ancestral hall, I've discovered that there's someone casting an unknown formation against our clan. Everyone, follow me to face the opponent. Immediately open the world gate, Changyang Qingyun angrily yelled. His face was sunken since he was furious. CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1193. Sealing the Changyang clan, 2. The 9 stalks of dragon saliva hovered in the air in a formation outside the Changyang clan's world gate. The vast amounts of vital energy within them had all been activated, causing every stalk of grass to glow with a dazzling golden light as tremendous energy surged within. Rue Jin formed hand seals sternly and rapidly changed between them at different rates. He seemed to have established an extremely obscure and mysterious connection with the 9 grasses. Hong Lian, Jian Chen, and Yu Yu all stood sternly as they devoted all their attention to the space up ahead. The space the 3 of them were examining began to violently twist and then suddenly rippled open. 100-meter-tall space gate formed. This was the world gate of the protector Changyang clan, the only passageway connecting it to the outside world. The world gate size could be changed accordingly, but 100 meters tall was its absolute limit. A landscape could be seen clearly through the world gate. It seemed rather similar to the outside world, but it was completely different. Beautiful mountains and clear rivers stood and flowed in there. The landscape was so beautiful that it could not be compared to the outside world, and the dense energy of the world was much different. It was several times more abundant compared to the outside world. Cultivation would definitely be much easier and be a more efficient process in there. A tremendous presence appeared from within the world gate with an unhidable fury. With Changyang Qingyun as the leader, a total of several dozen experts stood within the world gate. Their presences fused together and surged out from inside like a primordial beast. Changyang Qingyun glanced coldly at Jian Chen and the others before returning to Jian Chen. He growled, "Jian Chen, speak your intentions." Jian Chen, Hong Lian, and Yu Yu looked at each other. As if they could read each other's minds, they charged into the world gate at the same time. Hong Lian ran at the front. Red flames flickered on her body, making her look like a goddess of flames. Before she had even approached the world gate, a large swathe of flames drifted from her and shot toward the group of people with lightning-like speed. The 5 great elders immediately beamed inside when they saw that Hong Lian and the others actually wanted to blindly charge into the miniature world. They all sneered in disdain. They knew Hong Lian's strength. She was a saint king at great perfection, and her original form was a scorching divine phoenix. Together with her 2 powerful origin energy treasures, she had the power to challenge saint emperors, and she would not suffer defeat even if she faced them. If it was any other place, the 5 great elders would not be able to do anything to her, but it was a whole different story if it was within the protector clan. The 5 great elders and the several dozen saint rulers behind them retreated in unison. They did not stop Hong Lian, nor did they resist the sea of fire that drifted over. They just watched the terrifyingly hot fire enter the clan. The lips of the 5 great elders all curled into a deep smile, as if they were welcoming Hong Lian, Yu Yu, and Jian Chen's entry. Although a battle in the miniature world would result in mass destruction, they also possessed an absolute advantage in the miniature world. Hong Lian and Jian Chen charged into the miniature world one after another, while the bright moon divine hall under Yu Yu's control shrank a little. She followed behind them. Close the world gate. Changyang Qingyun used a communication technique to give a command to the saint rulers behind him. Immediately, a tremendous surging energy leaked from their bodies, completely enshrouding them. The energy began to shrink rapidly in size, condensing a suit of armor around them very quickly. The 4 other great elders all condensed a suit of armor as well to increase their defenses. Afterward, Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Yuan Wuji, who was only slightly weaker, faced off against Hong Lian while Changyang Qingyun Feng and Changyang Qingjueri dealt with Jian Chen. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua faced Yu Yu in the bright moon divine hall. Hong Lian and Jian Chen's battles were very intense. The surroundings were filled with flames and crisscrossed by sword qi. Terrifying ripples of energy surged out as shockwaves, causing the space to violently tremble and mountains to collapse. Even the floating piece of land in the distance shook, as if an earthquake had occurred. The commotion from Yu Yu's battle was far smaller on the other hand. Yu Yu stood at the entrance of the divine hall with the moon god's scepter in her hands. A hazy layer of moonlight fell from the door sill and protected her. Her opponent, Chongyang Yuan Zhenghua, knew that the fragile-looking girl right before him possessed unimaginable strength and that she could even heavily injure Chongyang Qingyun. As a result, he dared not to get too close and instead sent powerful strands of sword qi toward her from afar. However, the sword qi would shatter as soon as they came in contact with the moonlight in front of her. The sword qi could not even shake the thin-looking barrier. Yu Yu stood silently at the entrance as she looked in the direction of Jian Chen. She did not pay any attention to Chongyang Yuan Zhenghua, who constantly tried to harm her using his sword qi. Chongyang Yuan Zhenghua was pale while his face darkened more and more. He was a great elder of the Chongyang clan and a powerful saint king, yet he was being ignored by a girl he could completely look down upon. At the same time, his sword qi could not harm her at all, which filled him with anger. He used everything he had, yet he could not do anything to her. The saint rulers who did not participate in the battle used a secret technique to close the world gate in attempt to trap them inside. The huge world gate slowly began to close, but the moment it started to close, the bright moon divine hall began to fly toward it. It lodged itself in the world gate, preventing it from closing. The saint rulers' expressions at the back all changed. The bright moon divine hall was extremely tough. Although the world gate possessed a very great power when closing, it could do nothing to the bright moon divine hall. At that moment, everything that could happen between the world gate and the divine hall happened. The world gate could not be closed and the bright moon divine hall could not be moved.
Awaken the Emperor Armament. An older saint ruler instructed before leading a few saint rulers toward the forbidden grounds.
Jian Chen and Hong Lian were embroiled in extremely tough battles between the four great elders. Every time they clashed, devastating power would be created, causing the entire miniature world to violently tremble. Pitch-black cracks appeared in space-time and time again, showing signs of collapsing. The figures of 18 divine halls appeared in the sky, holding the place firm and causing the space of the realm to rapidly stabilize. CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. Chapter 1194. Sealing the Chongyang Clan, 3. Several saint rulers sat around the Emperor Armament in the forbidden grounds of the Chongyang clan. All of their eyes were closed, and they had formed hand seals, currently using a secret technique to awaken the Emperor Armament. The battle in the distance became more and more intense as terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the realm as shockwaves, where even the forbidden grounds were slightly affected. However, the shockwaves were not enough to stop their determined minds. They were going to awaken the Emperor Armament. As they all spat a cloud of essence blood onto the Emperor Armament, the weapon began to gently tremble, which became more intense over time. A layer of bright light surrounded the 30-meter-long Emperor Armament as it was slowly drawn from the ground, shooting to the sky. Suddenly, an extremely vast sword qi began to radiate from the Emperor Armament. It was enough to disturb the world and was basically unmatched. The commotion was so great that even saint kings at great perfection could not match up to it. The saint rulers who awakened the Emperor Armament were all pale white now. They all collapsed powerlessly on the ground, as if they had used up everything they had. However, they all smiled in success. They maintained complete confidence in the Emperor Armament. They thought that as soon as it was mobilized, there was nothing in the world that could stop their protector clan. The Emperor Armament shot through the sky, and without anyone's control, it charged toward Hong Lian as a streak of light. As soon as the Emperor Armament was awakened in a protector clan, it would automatically attack all targets that were hostile. Although it was not as powerful as when it was controlled, its power could not be underestimated either. Hong Lian handled the violent attacks from Chongyang Qingyun and Chongyang Yuan Wuji with ease.
She did not become flustered at all when she saw the incoming Emperor Armament.
With a flip of her hand, 3 tiny thumb-sized, flame-red sculptures of phoenixes appeared. She gently tossed the sculptures into the air and the 3 sculptures immediately began to burn with roaring flames. They turned into 10-meter-long phoenixes with intangible bodies that were condensed from flames. The 3 phoenixes opened their wings and charged toward Chongyang Yuan Wuji under Hong Lian's control. Shortly afterward, another 5 bright red feathers appeared in Hong Lian's hand. They shone with a blood-like color. They were not true phoenix feathers, but crafted from special materials by her. The 5 feathers flew from her hand and turned into 5 streaks of scarlet flames. As they flew, they rapidly expanded, becoming several dozen meters in length in the end. A layer of roaring flames covered them. They surrounded Chongyang Qingyun in a formation that seemed simple but contained the mysteries of the world. As the formation pulsed, the space inside quickly blurred and Chongyang Qingyun disappeared as well. He had been sucked away by the formation space. The 5 feathers of the formation shook violently as sparks flew off of them. Chongyang Qingyun was currently doing everything he could to break out, but the formation was one of the most powerful formations in the Scorching Divine Phoenix clan. Although it was nowhere near its full strength due to a lack of materials, it was enough to trap Chongyang Qingyun for some time. The Emperor armament shot over with an unstoppable force. Having broken away from Chongyang Yuan Zhenghua and Chongyang Qingyun, Hong Lian also drew her Scorching Godfire hairpin to face the attacks of the Emperor armament. The hairpin possessed the vague presence of origin energy. Wrapped under a layer of scorching white flames, it collided with the Emperor armament. With a deafening boom, an extremely powerful shockwave erupted, creating a storm of destruction. The mountain ranges in a radius of 10 kilometers instantly collapsed, reduced to falling rocks and dust in the air. The mountain ranges beyond the collapsed range also began to collapse part by part. The space violently shook and twisted very much. Streaks of pitch-black cracks appeared in space like huge, dark mouths of vicious ghosts, devouring anything and everything that got too close to them. The 18 divine halls in the sky had completely consolidated their physical forms. Every single divine hall was shining with an eternal glow as a vast, powerful, and mysterious energy surged out from them, fusing with the surrounding space to stabilize it. The single clash between the origin energy weapon and the Emperor armament was equivalent to the clash between 2 Saint Emperors. If the space had not been protected by the 18 divine halls, it probably would have collapsed already. On the other side, Jian Chen fought an intense battle against 2 great elders as well. At the same time, he paid attention to the wild fight that involved Hong Lian. Out of his opponents, Chongyang Qingjuri was the weakest, so he had become Jian Chen's primary target of attack. In just a bit of fighting, several slashes had appeared on him which dyed his luxurious white robes red. If it were not for the fact that Chongyang Qingyunfeng kept Jian Chen busy at crucial moments, Chongyang Qingjuri would have been even more heavily injured. Enter the 18 divine halls and activate the encirclement. An ancient heavy voice boomed from behind. Immediately, 18 saint rulers took to the sky, flying toward the 18 divine halls. The moment the 18 experts entered the structures, life seemed to have been breathed into the 18 divine halls. They possessed some sort of intelligence and began to move. All 18 divine halls stacked together and slowly fell toward Hong Lian's head. Hong Lian's expression changed. She raised her head as she glared at the divine halls that slowly fell down, and she finally became stern. This was because she had suddenly discovered she could not move at all. As the 18 divine halls fell from above, a curse seemed to have been planted on her. She could not move or break free no matter how hard she tried. This is spatial force. The wonders it contains far exceeds the comprehension of a regular Saint Emperor. It's something that only a peak Saint Emperor or someone that surpassed Saint Emperor can control. Even if a regular Saint Emperor gets trapped by this, they probably won't be able to break free in a short amount of time. Hong Lian was extremely stern. Hong Lian was trapped and immobilized. As the 18 divine halls grew closer and closer to her, even the energy within her was affected. It became rather difficult to control. Boom! With a loud sound, the Emperor armament struck her body while she was immobilized. It immediately caused her origin energy armor to spray out scorching white flames in order to fend off the attack. Hong Lian would have been blown away long ago if she had received such a powerful attack on any other day, but she was currently trapped. She could not move at all, and with nowhere to redirect the terrifying force of the Emperor armament, she became even more injured. Some paleness appeared on her face. Although she was protected by her armor and the Emperor armament could not break through it, the powerful force was still enough to shake up her organs. Ha ha ha, Phoenix. Do you really think that no one can stop you in our Protector clan space just because you have the 2 origin energy treasures? Let me tell you, the encirclement of the 18 halls of the Protector clans can trap Saint Emperors. Even if Saint Emperors want to break free, it'll take 4 hours. You probably won't even be able to break free even after a whole day since your strength is below a Saint Emperor. Chongyang Yuan Zhenghua loudly chuckled. He could not help but cease his useless actions of attacking the Bright Moon Divine Hall. CSG now has a Patreon set up, where you can read up to 35 chapters ahead. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.